Alrighty, let's get started. Okay, let's get in the zone right now. Here we go. Alright, let me pause the background stream. There we go. Alright, that's what I like to see. Alright, let me make sure. Yeah, okay, everything looks like it's performing nominally. Performing nominally. Alright, sweet. Alright, thank you guys who have shown up early. Let me take off my headphones, because I don't need headphones for this kind of stream anyway. Let me adjust my mic. Here we go. Alright, there we go. Okay, sweet. Alright, now I am ready for the long run. This stream is gonna be like 2-3 hours. I need to really sit tight, relax, and get into the zone. Alright, we're running out of time. Let me get some Fresca. Alright, okay. And happy birthday to you, Kevin. Okay, begin. Greetings, I'm your host, Dr. Wolfula, and welcome to Dr. Wolfula After Dark, my late-night talk show where I chat about the latest things happening in the world of horror, and also answer your questions live. This is a live stream, after all. I am looking at you guys right now with my eyes. This is not a thing where this is pre-recorded. I swear to God this isn't pre-recorded. I see you, William Slater, for instance, and Devin. And Jason Voorhees himself is here. Oh, sweet. Now, there isn't a whole lot happening in the world of horror news-wise for me, at least stuff I'm interested in, so I figured I guess I'd get a little bit more in advance and talk about something that's way off in the horizon, that's just been announced. It's still in pre-production. It's not really, I don't think they've done any shooting either, so that's what pre-production means. I'm talking, of course, about 13 things I want to see in the upcoming Friday the 13th TV series. Now, this is a wish list of items I want to see in the upcoming Friday the 13th TV series. Now, if you haven't heard about this show at all, I don't blame you because it's really early days. When they announced the show, they didn't have like a graphic or a teaser or anything. They just said, we're making a Friday the 13th show. Like, they just basically... Victor Miller was just like, oh, I signed the contracts, this Friday the 13th TV series is happening. Now, if you don't know who's behind the show, this is at least good news for some of you, I think. It's being produced, I think also maybe created, but I just know it's being produced by Brian Fuller, who is behind the Hannibal NBC show, which a lot of people liked. I didn't finish the third season, but I thought it was a pretty good show, so I'm definitely looking forward to what he does with a Friday the 13th TV series. And it's coming out on Peacock, which, you know, is my favorite streaming network. Anytime I have to get a Peacock subscription, I'm pleased. I'm pleased as punch. But admittedly, they are getting a lot of horror stuff, like, more than, like, some of their competitors as far as, like, established franchises. So maybe they might make a Halloween TV series at some point, who knows? But anyway, on to my list of things I want to see done in this Friday the 13th TV show. Enough gabbing, let's start the list. Now, first things first, Mrs. Voorhees needs to be the main focus. Now, this is a pretty basic wish, a basic desire, but you never know with these kind of prequel TV shows. You know, I saw Gotham, and I swear to God, like, half of the show was about Jada Pinkett Smith's character, Fish Mooney. Character I don't give a shit about. So I'm hoping they don't pull a fast one on us and have it be like, oh man, we're gonna get to see the origins of Jason Voorhees' mother and shit. And it's just not about that at all. It's about some other group of characters we have to spend tons of time with. I'm hoping this is a story from her perspective and we get to see her downfall. Like, we get to see her go insane out of grief over her son's supposed death and see how that evolves over time. I'm hoping there aren't like any other side characters that just get a ton of focus, where there's just like tons of padding story arcs that just go nowhere with characters I don't give a shit about. I'm hoping we get to really spend a lot of time with Mrs. Voorhees on this show. And especially since, you know, Jason would just be a little kid at this point if we do spend some time with him before he quote-unquote drowns. You know, I wouldn't want it to be like a young Sheldon show where it's mostly about a little kid Jason and shit like that. Wouldn't want that. So mainly want to see Mrs. Voorhees, get the spotlight for once and do a lot of killing over the course of this show. Like, really get. Because, like, if you think about it, before Jason even gets started as, like, an actual killer in the film series, his mother's been doing, like, crazy shit at. Who knows what she's been doing at Camp Crystal Lake for, like, 30. Well, okay, it's more like 21 years before Jason has his go. So you could really, like, just go to town on that kind of material. So I'm hoping, like, it's just all about Mrs. Voorhees, just, like, fucking tricking people and, like, luring them into just bloodbaths and shit, like, just being totally unassuming. I'm hoping. Now, this is the second thing. The TV show needs to be consistent with the movies. Now, basically what I mean is I don't want it to be like a alternate universe timeline kind of thing or a reimagining thing like a Hannibal or Bates Motel kind of bullshit thing. I want this to be able to connect directly to the movies where, you're able to, like, just, like, it's just consistent, essentially. Like, I don't want it to be like, wait, okay, that couldn't have possibly happened because that messes with something that happens in the movies. I want it to be like, just like, you can go from the fucking TV show and then it ends, and then you can go straight in the movies, and it's like, oh wow, it fits together perfectly. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping it's not like they do some reimagining shit, and that goes along with this other thing. It needs to take place in the 50s and 60s, ideally, because, of course, in order to be consistent, it would have to. Like, and I want to be able to spend some time in this other era. It would be cool to have, like, a horror show that's basically like a period piece, and not like, the menstrual period. I'm talking about, like, a different time period, and be able to explore, like, just going from the 50s and the 60s, and I guess maybe just explore this other side of the Friday the 13th universe, like, explore, like, this different culture, like, through the lens of Friday the 13th, because we mostly only saw the 80s. So being able to see, like, the promiscuous, like, dumb teenagers through different time periods, I mean, they could do, like, time jumps with this show, where you start in the 50s, and you go through the 60s, and then you end up in the 70s, and you get to see, like, how things have really changed through the lens of, like, a slasher horror universe kind of thing. I'm hoping the show doesn't take itself too seriously either, where it's like an ultra dour take. I'm hoping it has, like, some fun with the Friday the 13th license. Let's move on. All right, the number 4 is we need to be able to see Camp Crystal Lake in its prime, because the movies never really show us what the camp is like when it was in its heyday. All we really get to see is they're in the process of rebuilding the camp, or we got some flashbacks. The original movie has, like, a little flashback. Freddy vs. Jason has a flashback, that kind of shit. It's usually a condemned camp, or it's like Camp Forest Green, like in Friday the 13th Part 6. So ideally we need to be able to finally get to see and get an idea of what this place was like when it was an actually good summer camp, I'm assuming, and how it, like, kind of descends and, like, falls apart. And get that sense of tragedy where it's in the wake of Jason's drowning, how it just all just goes to shit. Like, it just, like, falls apart due to complete and total neglect. I think that would be the main, like, theme of the show. How neglect can just make things fall apart around you, like, and you don't even notice it until it's too late. I think that would be a pretty cool and interesting aspect this show could finally explore. I'm hoping it's not a thing where Jason drowns the first episode, and, like, the camp's already shut down, and it's like, that would really suck. That'd be a shame. Alright, this is another thing, and this should go without saying with Friday the 13th, but you never know with these kind of TV shows. One character needs to die in every episode, at least one character. More characters, that'd be great. I'd be super happy. But at least one character needs to die in every episode. Hopefully it's Kevin Bacon every episode, but if it's not, hopefully a different character dies in every episode, and they need to die in a creative way that's true to, like, the Friday the 13th universe. And, Hannibal had some, like, really cool approaches to the deaths depicted in the show. Like, they had some really creative deaths, but usually it was based around just, crime scene reconstructions and just the aftermath and, like, the artistic presentation. So, this show would need to have, like, the artistic presentation aspect done in real time. And I think, where it's just, like, individual art pieces out of people dying. And I'm hoping the show delivers on the kills. And it's like a show where you don't go an episode and, like, nobody dies. And I'm like, oh, man, I was really hoping somebody would die. And I'm hoping it's not like it doesn't become like a formulaic use of character deaths where, like, a character always dies at the very end of a fucking episode, or like at the beginning of an episode in like a cold open and there's like some investigators and shit. Ah, man, that would be a poor handling of the kills. And I do see I have some super chats. Unfortunately, this section I gotta focus on my main topic, but I will address those super chats soon, don't worry. Now, I hope we finally get to see in this Friday the 13th series Jason's dad on screen. Because, there's been attempts to bring Jason's dad, Elias Voorhees, at least, supposedly it's his name in some comics and other stuff, it's Elias Voorhees, but we don't really, if it's not shown in the movies, I don't consider it canon. Hopefully we finally get to establish what Jason's dad is like, since this is very early on. And I'm hoping they kind of subvert it to a certain degree. Like, expectation subversion gets a kind of bad rap. But I'm hoping they kind of go against the usual portrayal of Jason's dad in, like, comics. Or, like, Jason Lives was supposed to have Jason's dad appear in a cameo. And he was supposed to be a big thing. He was supposed to be, like, ultra evil. Like, some kind of demonic entity or whatever. Like, some kind of bullshit like that. I'm hoping they just kind of are, like... Jason's dad is actually a good guy. He just wants to take care of Jason, and Jason's mom is just a fucking crazy bitch who's, like, really violent. Like, just go against that, where Jason's mom is just where everything goes wrong for Jason, and Jason's dad tries to set things right and take Jason away from a crazy, abusive, wacko mom, but it just ends up not working out. And maybe Jason's dad ends up getting killed. Just to kind of go against, like, the usual thing you see with these horror prequel reboot things where, like, the horror villain has, like, an abusive dad in their life and shit. Like, you see it all the time. And just going more the direction of the mother is just purely where it is. And don't make, like, Mrs. Voorhees a sympathetic character where it's, like, she has to deal with this abusive husband and shit, and that's part of why she kind of goes crazy. Like, just make her, like... crazy, just a crazy person. I'm hoping they can. This is impossible, but I'm hoping they get Mia Goth to play young Mrs. Voorhees, because when I saw Pearl, I was like, this is really dead on for, like, what I think of young Mrs. Voorhees being like something like that, or at least take some inspiration from that, because that was a pretty good movie, and the whole time I was thinking, this is kind of like a young Mrs. Voorhees sort of movie. Yeah, okay. All right, anyway, let's move on to the 7th point. Jason doesn't drown right away on the show. That's a key thing. I want to be able to spend some time with Jason as a kid. Anytime we see Jason as a kid, it's flashbacks or, like, fantasy sequences. I would like to actually get an idea of what kid Jason is like with his mom, and establish some of the... crazy, I guess establish some shit, like in Friday the 13th Part 2, Jason seems to only recognize his mother based on her fucking sweaters, just shit like that. We get an idea of, where Jason's behavior and mannerisms come from as an adult that we're familiar with in the movies. I don't want to, spend too much time, and I wouldn't want him to be, a sympathetic portrayal. Totally, ultimately Jason is on the more sympathetic side just because he is such a social outcast reject with, lots of unfortunate birth defects, but, I would like the idea of him, just kind of already being, seemingly on the road to being a violent killer like his mother, stuff like that. It'd just be nice to see this glimpse before he suddenly drowns. But then again, I guess maybe there would be some concerns over the, the the portrayal of Jason, like this particular child, but whatever. It's just what he's like, All right, point number 8. I want to be able to finally see the history of not Camp Crystal Lake, the history of the town Crystal Lake. I want to see it explored on the screen. Like, it'd be cool to see it have, like, a rich sort of backstory to it, where it's like more of a fully realized town with, like, with like a sense of history, a sense of backstory, like landmarks, like just want to get to know it geographically too, like really establish if it is in fact in New Jersey. Like, I guess if it ties in directly to the original Friday the 13th, they show fucking New Jersey. And also, ideally, I would like it if they shot in Blairstown like the original Friday the 13th, where it's the same exact place you saw in that first Friday the 13th movie. I'm hoping like it's as consistent as possible. Like, if you're a fan of that first Friday the 13th movie, like they just do everything possible to make it look like the Crystal Lake you see briefly in the original movie, especially since we don't really get to spend that much time in the actual town in any of the movies. It's always just like isolated campgrounds or cabins, shit like that. Never any time in the town, so it'd be nice to actually spend some time in this town and get to know it for once. Point number 8, I would like it if this show had like a Twin Peaks vibe to it, where you have characters that have eccentric, weird personalities and different kinds of secrets. You have a crazy Ralph in that first movie, so there's got to be all kinds of different sorts of weirdos. And you have a diner, too, so you can really play with that. I think you could make a Crystal Lake show where it is like, kind of like a modern version of Twin Peaks, just much more fucking violent. Just much more violent. And also, maybe you could have some supernatural aspects too, like in Twin Peaks, because the Friday the 13th movies delve into that, but not necessarily, just because that first Friday the 13th movie isn't totally supernatural, but it has like a hint of possibly being supernatural with the young Jason at the end, whether or not it is just a dream Alice has, or if it is like a thing that actually happens. You could maybe play with that, where it's like, you're not quite sure if the town is, like, actually cursed and there's some kind... Where you do... Like, you could definitely explore, like, the idea of there being a long-standing death curse surrounding the town and the camp itself, where it isn't just... It's got, like, a death curse because Jason drowned. Like, it's been, like, a fucked up place for years, essentially. Alright, point number 10. This is a big deal for me. It has to have a Harry Manfredini style score. So, that's something I feel was missing in the Friday the 13th reboot. It doesn't really have... That movie didn't really have, that 80s synth score, and I'm hoping this TV show has something Harry Manfredini style. Hopefully they do just get Harry Manfredini to score the show, but he's getting on in years, but he's still like an active composer. I think he could probably do it, but if they don't get him, they gotta at least make it sound like the original Friday the 13th score, just because it's so distinctive, and it really just, I don't know, it gives the series its identity, like, separate from Halloween, like that's, like, to me, it's a horror movie, a horror franchise, to me, at least, maybe 40%, maybe even higher than it, maybe 50-60% of it, the identity is in the score. Like, that's like, I think one of the first things we think of is with Halloween is the theme. So it would be a shame if they didn't have the key ma 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 stuff and just like the other hallmark staples of the Friday the 13th soundscape. Like, I'm really hoping this show captures that, and it isn't just like a standard horror soundtrack you hear nowadays, like something that's a real throwback. Alright, point 11. I'd like to get to know how Jason survives in the woods, finally. I think this is something the show would answer later on, but, that's always been a very vague aspect. Like, is Jason supernatural, or did he just survive in the woods? Was he resurrected somehow? Is he some kind of fucking Wendigo? Or did he just, like, get lost in the woods, and by the time he got out, he found out his mother was dead? Like, just, I guess, some explicit answers, I guess. I mean, it could be up in the air as far as whether or not you would want to consider it canon, because, when you go into these kind of answers, people don't necessarily like it, because, some people love the mysteries of Friday the 13th, the unintentional mysteries, where it's like, let's just never fucking bother with answering these kind of questions. But, part of me is just like, just to get an idea of, like, what happened in the years between Jason's, like, 10 and he's, like, in his late 30s or whatever his age is supposed to be. Like, just get a better idea of, like, what was going on? Like, what happened? Oh, man, I just would like to know. Where'd he get the bag, too? Maybe give an origin of the bag. We've seen the hockey mask origin twice. Maybe finally get the bag origin. That'd be pretty cool. Maybe he just finds a bag of oranges. I mean, I guess maybe he starts out with a bag. Like, I guess as a child, he is self-conscious and wears the bag out of habit. Maybe just took the bag off when he went swimming, because, like, who wants to wear a bag while they're swimming? But anyway, on to point number 12, penultimate point. Young Crazy Ralph has to be a recurring character in this Friday the 13th show. And, he can't die because he is alive in the movie. So we need to get to know this fucking Ralph guy. Why is he so crazy? What's his connection with Camp Crystal Lake? I mean, maybe he could be, like, a guy who worked at the camp, or was one of the camp counselors. Something like that, just, like, figure out what happened to this guy. And also, like, I guess, figure out where are all these hermits coming from? Why are there so many hermits in Camp Crystal Lake? Like, or Crystal Lake in general? Why are there so many crazy old men just kind of wandering around? Finally answer these kind of questions. But yeah, I don't want them to forget about Crazy Ralph. Like, he's a key aspect of this show. And, like, I guess find out how he goes from just Ralph to Crazy Ralph. Like, I don't know. I just need some more Crazy Ralph, just because I feel like the movies kill him off way too soon. Like, I feel like if they had known they were going to be making as many Friday the 13th movies as they did, they probably wouldn't have killed Crazy Ralph off in the second one. I feel like it was always a big mistake, and just kill him off, like, randomly, like, he's just, like, wandering around the camp, and, like, he gets, like, suffocated, or whatever. Like, come on. We need more Ralph. And finally, point number 13. The show needs to end where the original film begins. Like, bring it full circle. And I think how they could make that a satisfying finale, essentially, is basically just remaking the original Friday the 13th, but from the perspective of Pamela. Because, it's all from the perspective of, like, the different characters. The closest thing to her perspective we get is just POV shots, and then suddenly it's Betsy Palmer at the end. Like, it'd be kind of interesting to, I guess, just see it from her side of things, and, like, I don't know, just recreate the events seen in that first Friday the 13th up to her getting decapitated, and then passing the baton over to Jason, and, like, just, setting up the movies going forward. I feel like that would be a good fitting end for a show like this. But yeah, I would like to just see, and it would have, like, different actors, of course. Like, they wouldn't be like they use, like, some deep fake technology or whatever to recreate the original Friday the 13th. It would be just different actors and stuff, but it would be consistent with what we see in that first movie. But yeah, just bring it full circle. Like, just, Anyway, yeah, that's the 13 things I want to see in the Friday the 13th TV show coming out soon. Oh, man, how long was I talking about that? 25 minutes. Wow, I can just talk forever about Friday the 13th. But I'm not going to. I'm going to finally move on to the Q&A. But man, I am looking forward to this Friday the 13th show, though. I am looking forward to it. I feel like Brian Fuller being involved is a good sign that they are, treating it with respect. It's not just... It's kind of fucked up because that Lord of the Rings show on Amazon, the showrunners of the show had like one writing credit before they were given access to this billion-dollar TV show. It's just, that's insane. So it's, at least with Brian Fuller, it's like with the Friday the 13th show, they got like a guy who's got like 20 to 30 years of TV writing experience to at least produce the show. At least it's a good sign that things are shaping up for the show. But yeah, we still don't have any real footage of what the show's gonna be like. It's still in pre-production. Hopefully it gets off the ground, because you never really know with these Friday the 13th projects. And I guess I didn't even really discuss this, but yeah, this Friday the 13th show, I think legally it can only connect to the first movie directly. It can't have like, I think it can't have anything Victor Miller didn't introduce in that first Friday the 13th script, which is very little, admittedly. Like, it can't have like Jason in the hockey mask, I guess probably that's it. I guess maybe it can't have adult Jason at all. So maybe my points about wanting to know about more about adult Jason can't work out, but I don't know. It's kind of iffy legally. I guess whether or not Victor Miller also owns the rights to the fucking sequels. I feel like if he did, like, it would be a much more simple legal situation. But I think this show, because it's a prequel, doesn't really have to worry about any of that stuff, which is why they're making it. It's been 14 years since the last Friday the 13th thing has come out, or at least the last movie came out. They made the game in between, but it's been a long time since we got something new in the realm of Friday the 13th that's not a fan film or a video game. So it'd be nice to finally, I guess, get something new for once. That's like an actual, not quite a movie, but the closest thing possible a TV show. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll probably come out in 2024. Again, they haven't announced either, like, a date, and they haven't shot it yet, so I'm guessing 2024. Yeah, that's my best guess. But anyway, let's move on to the announcements. Not really having a lot of channel announcements right now. I've been very busy with just making vids, but, the Gulag channel has that Addams Family 2 video up, so if you haven't seen that, if you haven't seen that yet, check it out. And also subscribe to the Gulag channel, because we're going to have a new video soon covering the Scooby-Doo Mystery Begins live-action movie that aired on Cartoon Network 14 years ago. So check that out when it drops. Now, of course, also working on the Nightmare on Elm Street 5 review. And next week, there's going to finally be that final Lost Treehouse of Horror review, Treehouse of Horror 8. So that's going to finally come out next week, just to kind of fill in the gap between the next major videos. Also, gonna finally be working on bringing back Universal Horror Month and finally do it justice this time around. The first time, I was hit with some, unfortunate developments in my life, but finally going to be able to make this Universal Horror Month work out this time. I'm hoping, at least, because I'm going to be working on it a lot earlier, so, theoretically it'll work out this time. Fingers crossed, but I'm working on it. There'll be some Universal Classic Monster content next month. Not next month. Technically June. We're not in May yet. We're not in May. And, final announcement. I'm going to be having, oh man, I gotta drink some Fresca. Oh man. Loki DeWitt has a super chat. Have a Fresca on me, Doc. I sure did. And after I'm done with these announcements, I'm gonna go straight into the Fresca. Oh, bad, before we get into this Q&A. But like always, I have a Sunday movie night with my Patreon supporters and channel members. This time around, it's gonna be Sleepaway Camp. Not quite Friday the 13th, but it's Friday the 13th with, a penis at the end. So, it's the next best thing. So if you want to support the channel and watch bonus streams with me, just $5 a month gets you a movie night stream every Sunday. Also, finally, got some new merch. Not quite new anymore, but it's kind of new. It's like a month old at this point, but if you haven't gotten this new merch and you're interested in it, link in the description. Alright, finally moving on to the Q&A. My favorite part of these streams, the Q&A, where I just answer questions. I don't have to, try try to come up with a unscripted video's worth of content at the beginning. I do like that part, but it's challenging, and it's very easy to screw up. All right, now let's address all these super chats I have missed out because I was too busy hearing myself speak. All right, now let's get caught up on all the super chats first. All right. Staghorn has a super chat. So, Doc, do you think it will be better or the same as the OG Friday the 13th TV series? Now, that's something I didn't actually mention at all during my whole spiel earlier, but there was a Friday the 13th TV series in the 80s. Paramount basically made it to capitalize on the name brand success of Friday the 13th, but it doesn't have Jason in it. Doesn't have anything Friday the 13th related. The Friday the 13th TV series was supposed to, at one point, I think they planned for a finale. It was going to have Jason's hockey mask. Essentially, the Friday the 13th classic show from the 80s was just about, like, a haunted antique shop, I think, with, like, haunted items, and every episode revolves around a different haunted item, essentially. Not really what I'm interested in with Friday the 13th, but hopefully this new show takes place in the actual Friday the 13th universe, and it's not like some bullshit where it's just not what you want, essentially. Oh, man. It's like, oh, boy, no Jason, no kills, nothing like anything you want from a Friday the 13th show again. That'd be great. Bronson Wright Wolf has a super chat. What are your thoughts on Vampire in Brooklyn? I've never actually seen Vampire in Brooklyn yet. I do know it has, I do know it was directed by Wes Craven. It was one of his rare attempts at a comedy film, and I guess the Scream movies are kind of comedy films. I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. But, eventually I'll probably see it. I mean, it stars Eddie Murphy. I always think of Eddie Murphy as, like, a really hardcore horror actor, so I gotta see it eventually. DLG just had a super chat donation. Thank you, DLG. DLG has a super chat question. Hey, DW, I recently messaged you on Insta. All love. Well, thank you, DLG. I'll have to check out your message as soon as I'm done streaming. King of the Fat has a super chat. If the Mario Brothers came to fix your plumbing, do you think Luigi would be scared of your house, you and Goulash? Well, I would hope that they're just doing a plumbing job and it's not some kind of, they're not going to bring the vacuum cleaner from Luigi's mansion, because I like the dust, okay? I like the ghost too, but I especially like the dust, so don't bring the Poltergust. I think it was the Poltergust 3000 or whatever. Don't bring that into my home. But, of course Luigi will be scared. He should be scared. I'm a very intimidating fellow. I'm very intimidating, and he should be frightened of me. The coward. And I intend to also kidnap him. And hopefully his brother doesn't mind either and try to... I mean, that would be a nice... Oh, man, they need to just make Mario's Mansion. I don't give a fuck about Luigi. Just make the next Luigi's Mansion game Mario's Mansion. Like, just give him the Poltergust. Like, fuck Luigi. Like, come on. I want to see Mario fight ghosts. Like, come on. Give Mario some love. He doesn't get enough love, I think. Just give me more Mario. Man Gay has a super chat. Ever dream about collaboration with Dead Meat? I don't dream about it, but if I'm asked to collaborate, I will. But, I don't actively seek out collaborations. If I'm asked, I almost always do a collaboration, but, I don't host collaborations on my channel or anything like that. So if I'm not asked, it just doesn't happen. But, I'm not really that into collabs anyway, as far as, oh man, I hope someday I get to work with this YouTuber. Not because I'm, like, against working with other YouTubers, just because it's just so much easier to just make stuff on my own. I don't have to worry about, like, somebody else's schedule and stuff. Oh man, I gotta mute I forgot to mute my fucking phone. I could just worry about me. Like, just be like, yeah, I can just work on my own time. That always works better for me at the end of the day. It's always just a little less stressful. All right, let's see. Nicola has a super chat. YouTube die-in needs to return. At some point, it will return in some form, I hope. Of course, if you're missing the die-in theater streams on YouTube, the reason why they don't happen anymore is just because YouTube is very weird with its copyright, AI, algorithm, content ID system, whatever. It's very weird where anybody can claim because for a while I was like streaming public domain movies. And if you don't know what the public domain is, it's stuff anybody can use. There's no right situation at all. Nobody owns a movie in the public domain or a book or whatever, and you can just use it freely. So those were at least movies I could stream, because I couldn't stream copyrighted movies on YouTube fully. You can't do that kind of shit. So public domain, fine. But unfortunately, YouTube has a thing with their content ID system where anybody can claim they own the rights. Anybody, I guess, can just submit. If they have, like, some kind of, one of these, like, content ID, like, companies, they can submit a public domain movie and say they own it, and that's the end of it. So, like, I was doing public domain streams, and they just get fucking copyright flagged by these companies. So I couldn't even do that. So it's just like, it's just a no-win situation. So then I tried to do an experimental die-in theater that was totally scripted and pre-recorded and edited in such a way where I wouldn't have any issues. The Naked Witch die-in theater, and I really liked making that, but a lot of people weren't so into the scripted, pre-recorded die-in theater, so it was a little bit discouraging against doing, like, because it was also, like, much harder to do than just a stream die-in theater, like, scripting it out and everything. So the fact that it didn't really get a fond reception kind of discouraged me from even just trying to keep doing the die-in theater on YouTube. I want to do it. It's just hard to make it work. Ugh. All right, I got some more super chats, but before I read some of those, let me address some of the non-super chat comments in the chat right now. Under the Sky So Blue says, you can stream Night of the Living Dead. I have streamed that movie twice. So yeah, I can stream that, but even with that, it's just a little iffy, because, I don't really know if somebody's gonna be like a copyright troll and claim they own the rights to Night of the Living Dead. Like, YouTube is just so fucked up. Like, they have no system to, like, verify if something's in the public domain. It's fucking crazy. They should have, like, a database of public domain content and materials that nobody can claim they own and that anybody can use, but they don't have that shit. And it's so fucked up. I hate it. Ugh. Artist SRF says, I would be surprised if Kane Hodder makes a cameo in the Friday the 13th show. That's something I am hoping, is they throw in some cameos from different actors that appeared in the movies. Jason actors, like, victim actors, whatever. Like, it would just be a nice little nod to fans of the movie series that, we're paying attention. We know these actors, and we're gonna throw them in. So it'd be cool to see Kane Hodder appear somewhere. But you never really know. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of these kind of... Because, I was hoping to see, like, some cameos in the newer Halloween movies, but there weren't really any cameos at all, as far as, like... There were very few. There was, like, PJ Souls had a voice cameo in Halloween 2018, and, there were cameos in the sense that, Marion Craven's returns, but it's not... To me, a cameo would just be, like, somebody just kind of pops in, like, maybe it's just, like, a background extra or something, like, I don't know, like, just, I don't know, I guess it's just up in the air whether we see more cameos, I guess, in a Friday the 13th show at least, just because, I don't know, I feel like cameos, especially with the Friday the 13th series, they've always been, like, really spendthrift as far as paying for cameos. Like, Freddy vs. Jason was supposed to have, like, a Betsy Palmer cameo as Mrs. Voorhees, But they didn't even fucking bother. Like, they were like, I think they were like, you have to pay for your own fucking plane ticket and shit, and I think probably weren't gonna pay her that much, so they just got some old lady who was convenient, and that's it. Like, it's just, you know, it's kind of fucked up, how, legacy actors can kind of be treated by Hollywood, like, you know. ATM has a super chat. I like Luigi. Mario has plenty of love. I'm just kidding. Just kidding, ATM. I'm just kidding. Anyway, Mike Carp has a super chat. Thank you, Mike. Keep up the good work. I'll try my best. More like bad work. More like bad work. Alright, the King of the Fat has a super chat. What if the Aqua Teens and Carl were at Disney World? I'm sure they would have a wonderful time at Disney World. I think they probably go on the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I think Meatwad would really enjoy the Teacups ride, but probably Master Shake would be like, I'm way too old for that kind of baby ride. And then Master Shake would just, you know, go on Big Thunder Mountain, and they just have a wonderful time at the end of the day. There would be some disputes, but it would all just go wonderfully smooth. Oh, the Hollow Seance has a super chat. Will you bring back Universal Horror Month reviews this year? Yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan right here. Working on that next week, so keep an eye out for that. I mean, technically, I will be working on, I'll be working first next week on that Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey horror movie review, so I'll finally review that. And then after that, once I get that queued up and ready to go, be working on the Universal Horror Month videos. So if you missed those, they're going to be coming back. Don't worry. Alright, okay. Let me get some Fresca real quick, and then I'll answer some more questions. Oh yeah, that Fresca really hits the spot. I gotta drink more during these streams. I love these streams, but they murder your voice if you don't stay hydrated, but I just can never keep the right rhythm of hydration going. Oh, boy. Anyway. Alter Ego Bro says, gotta go, bye. So long, Alter Ego Bro. Loki DeWitt says, we need that Kevin Bacon cameo. That would be a good cameo to have. I mean, maybe he could be the father of... No, wait, no. The grandfather of his character from the first Friday the 13th movie or something. I don't know. I think Kevin Bacon was in that recent camp horror movie. I can't remember what it's called. It was like, it's like they, them, or whatever. Something like that. She, her, I don't know, whatever, but... But he was in that, so maybe he'd be open to return to Friday the 13th, I guess. Another atheist asks, Doc Wolfula, what do you think of the presentations of Jason Voorhees in Family Guy, where he seems to be a humble and intelligent guy and a father of an overweight son? I remember him, like, popping up in Family Guy here and there. Where I guess the joke was he just, like, I don't know, at least the one I remember, he's, like, on a news show, and he gives, like, a very eloquent interview, and then he just randomly kills a lady off screen. Yeah, this is an interesting take on Jason, I guess. I don't think it's canon, though. I don't think it's true to the source material, though. That's what you're asking me. Archer asks, thoughts on Monster Squad? Fucking terrific movie. One of the best 80s action-adventure comedy horror movies out there. That's for sure. And if you haven't seen Monster Squad, it's like if the Goonies met the Universal Monsters, essentially. Just a really fun movie. I guess they don't really just meet the Universal Monsters. They kick the Universal Monsters' asses. I guess it's like the closest thing to a modern crossover movie with the Universal Monsters. But not really modern at all anyway, because that movie's like nearly 40 years old now. But the closest to modern, I guess, we will ever get. I don't think it was even like, an authorized Universal Monsters depiction, just because the characters are public domain anyway. So they had like a creature from the Black Lagoon in it, but I think they call it swamp creature or whatever. They, not approved by Universal necessarily, but still fun. Still a fun fucking movie. King the Fat has a super chat. What if Mario and Luigi were at Disney World? Well, they would not be allowed on Disney property because they are, of course, competing characters. They have their own designated play areas at the Universal parks, especially at the currently opened Hollywood branch of Nintendo World. They would not be allowed. They would be turned away. If you have anything to do with the Universal company, you are not allowed on Disney property. It's just a commonly known policy. So if they wanted to be on Disney property, they should have signed the arrangement with Disney, but they didn't. So they just have to live with that. They have to live with that choice for the rest of their lives. But, at least the money's good. At least the Universal money is pretty good. Actually, I think probably, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo has significantly more money than Universal has. Just so much more money. Like, just Universal is just doing everything it can to, like, just get a piece of the Nintendo action. Alright, let me see. Rip Eager asks, you ever planning on reviewing Scream 4 on the channel? I will at some point. That was the plan after the Nightmare on Elm Street 5 video, so assuming that doesn't change, that will be like the next major, probably not a review. I feel like Scream 4 is at least a little bit better done than Scream 3. It's got a little bit more credibility behind it, it's a little bit on the, it's got a little less stuff to make fun of than Scream 3. Like, Scream 3 is just one of those gold mine movies of just tons of stuff you can make fun of. Like, that's like the only way a review works, is like if a movie just has, if I can make a joke if every line of a video is a joke. If I'm just like reading like a synopsis and there's no joke, that's when a review falls apart. So, like, that's, like, the perfect kind of movie. And that's why there aren't, like, many reviews as I'd want, just because it's a little harder to come by one of those kind of movies. It's, I mean, it's not really that hard. But, there's some, like, bad horror movies that, you don't really have a lot to make fun of, where there's, like, lots of dull stretches where there's just nothing to make fun of. Like, when you have, like, a bad horror movie where you can just constantly make fun of it, there's never a dull moment, it's always a good option. Alright, Serpentthrope has a super chat. Are you excited for the last voyage of the Demeter? I'm arbitrarily extending this message because it was one of the character too long for a $2 super chat. I still haven't seen the trailer for the last voyage of the Demeter. I was told about it in the last Resident Evil stream, the last Resident Evil 4 stream, and it sounds very interesting to me. It sounds very compelling to me. It's basically, from what I heard, about just Dracula on a ship headed to, I guess, London. It's basically the bridging story between him coming from Transylvania to London and just wiping out this ship of crew members, and I guess them trying to survive and shit. Sounds super cool. Sounds more compelling than that Renfield movie. I haven't really even heard anything about that Renfield movie. I was interested in that Renfield movie, but then when I saw it had like fucking kung fu action and shit, like I was like, all right, this is not my kind of thing. I'm good. I don't know. Even for, like, Nicolas Cage's Dracula, I'm just like, I don't know if I care enough to sit through fucking zombie guy kung fu. I don't know, that's my kind of thing. But, definitely interested in the last voyage of the Demeter, though. It sounds really cool. All right, now I will be going to Patreon Q&A questions for a bit, and I'll come back to you guys live. I'll try to find some good questions in the meantime. Johnny Alright asked, "What's up, Doc? Even though I like Goulash's review of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, did you ever think about doing your own review of Nightmare Part 3? For that matter, doing newer videos on Nightmares Part 2, 6, and Freddy vs. Jason? I still need to do my review of Nightmare on Elm Street 5, but I am interested in revisiting the Friday the 13th and Nightmare franchises sometime in the future. I think a more palatable approach to revisiting them would be to just make big videos that would be franchise retrospectives / reviews. SuperShag21 asked, "Question for Goulash. Will you ever review the Shadow Zone series, like The Teacher Ate My Homework with Shelley Duvall? It's definitely something I'm interested in covering after you send it in. It's just about finding the right time to do it." SuperShag21 asked, "Question for Doc. How do you feel about the Winnie the Pooh horror movie getting a sequel? I still haven't seen the first one yet, but I guess there wouldn't be a sequel if there wasn't a demand to see Pooh Bear killing sluts. Hopefully the sequel has a better budget to make masks that look better than whatever the fuck this is. I am intending to review Blood and Honey at some point, and Terrifier 2 sometime soon." And like I said, I will be working on the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey video next week. I've been meaning to for a while. I didn't see Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey in theaters like I was hoping to, just because it became a Regal Cinema exclusive, I think, and I just don't have any near me. It was just way too far out of the way, and also, you know, it's probably for the best just because it's better when I have a movie that's out on home video, because I can work with a lot more clips, especially with that Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I think they only had the trailer out. They didn't have really any clips to work with anyway, so it would be a very limiting video if I reviewed it in theaters. So finally gonna be covering that Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I covered it, like, it would be fucked up if I didn't make a review of it anyway, just because I made, like, I think I did, like, two streams dedicated to that fucking Winnie the Pooh horror movie. I gotta review it. I gotta fucking review it. Loki DeWitt has a super chat. "Speaking of Jason, what are your thoughts on the 2009 Jason existing in the same universe as the Bayformers? Optimus Prime versus Jason, just imagine." I guess they could do that. I guess? Well, no, I think, like, the right situation is... I don't know, it's very weird. I don't even know I would be entertaining that. Like, Jason would just, like, get crushed by a fucking Autobot. I don't know how he would possibly fight Optimus Prime. It'd be very one-sided. I guess maybe if they did, like, one of those things where Jason is reimagined as an Autobot, I guess he fucking transforms into a tractor, and then the tractor turns into, like, a giant Decepticon with, like, a hockey mask fucking head or whatever. I don't know. I guess that's how it could work. I don't know. But it's an interesting question, though. It's an interesting question. Deathzer asks, "Who is better, Ted White or Kane Hodder?" Honestly, I definitely appreciated Ted White more than Kane Hodder as Jason. Like, I think maybe he is my... yeah, I think I'd say Ted White is my favorite Jason, just because he didn't feel... he felt like just a guy. Like, he just felt like a guy. That's a very strange way to put it, but he didn't feel like a monster, where he has, like, a very... like, you know, Kane Hodder depicts Jason as essentially a monster, where he has a very specific way he moves around, he breathes heavily, he does all the monster stuff you expect, which, you know, is very cool and shit. But Ted White just depicts Jason as, like, just a normal, kind of fucked up man in a mask. He can run around, he has, like, a very broad display of different kinds of body language and emotions. He's a little bit more multifaceted, I guess, in his approach. Like, there isn't, like, a standard guidebook. There aren't, like, standard guidelines to how he fucking moves around as Jason. It's just like, you know, operating in the moment, very natural, and, like, he just brought, like, a certain intensity to the portrayal that I just really like. just a fucking solid Jason actor. All right. Eddie Huerta says, I saw Friday the 13th knowing about Jason, but never saw the first one until I rented it at our Blockbuster and was kind of sad there was no hockey mask. Yeah, that's why I always suggest if you're getting into the series, unless you really want to start from the beginning, I suggest you watch, like, Friday the 13th Part 4 or Part 6. Just like one of the movies where you just go straight into the Jason stuff, and if you like that stuff, you know, you can go back and watch the original movie and go forward. I guess Part 2 is also a good starting point. It's like a fun movie. I mean, it has Jason in a bag, but it's still... Honestly, I think I'd rank Part 2... Oh, I did like a Friday the 13th rankings video, too. I think maybe I ranked Part 2 as my second favorite, I think. And I think, hopefully, that's consistent with that video. Be so fucked up. It's like, yeah, one of the best ones. Just, you know, just doesn't have the hockey mask in it. Who cares, though? Who fucking cares? It's whatever. Some people like the bag, too. You know, I'm kind of can go either way about the bag, but, you know, I don't mind the bag. The bag's cool. It's fine. It's not like, something that's gonna be iconic or anything, but the bag did, you know, suited Jason. It fit the needs of Jason at the time, but glad he got the hockey mask eventually. Let me see. But yeah, I guess going back to before I move on, the first Friday the 13th movie is definitely a rough watch. Not because it's scary or anything, just because besides the Tom Savini kills and Betsy Palmer's performance as Mrs. Voorhees, it's and also Harry Manfredini's score, it's just like a bit dull to watch. Like lots of long stretches of just characters kind of just sitting around, lying down, kind of walking around aimlessly. You don't really know what's going on. Just not a great movie to watch over and over again like the sequels. You know, it had like a certain, you know, aspect, like it had certain aspects to it where you can see how it launched a, you know, a multi-million-dollar franchise. But, you know, going back, yeah, that first Friday the 13th movie is always a difficult rewatch for me. Michael Diaz says, will we get an updated Halloween ranking in the future? Oh yeah, that's definitely a plan sometime soon. Probably one of the October videos this year will be a ranking video. Like, right after the Halloween Ends mega review, probably just have like a quick ranking video just to finally cap it all off. Cap all those movies off. For now, at least. Probably have like a fucking revisiting of the fucking recent trilogy, whatever. Just like keep going in like a fucking loop of just revisiting the Halloween movies in some way or another. I still need to make that fucking Halloween. I still need to make the Halloween Old Myers House book review / reading. I've been like holding off on it for a while. I need to find the right time to do it. It's on my shelf. I need to do it. But I realize with the power of AI right now, AI technology, I don't have to worry too much about making visuals if I'm reviewing a book. I could just put the fucking text directly from the book and just put it in like an AI thing, and it'll just make the visuals for me. And I could still mix in like some stuff I draw and animate myself, but like that could really pick up some of the slack as far as worrying about fucking creating the visuals for stuff that does not have visuals to go with it inherently. So I think that'll definitely make things a little easier. I need to start looking at this AI stuff. I don't approve of AI as far as you know, making just finished products, but just like conceptualizing things. You know, I feel like it can really help out. You know, at least in that area. You know, just to help you figure out what something can look like, where it's like, what would this look like mixed with this, and then you get a basic idea, and then you do your own spin on it, that kind of thing. Anyway, Okay. Billy Mount the Third asks Doc, I really want to ask you about the Friday the 13th show. Will Paramount or New Line / Warner Brothers be involved with the show since either owns the rights to the franchise and the films? From what I've heard, neither of them are really involved with this show because this is just a Victor Miller thing. I don't really know. Oh man, okay, I gotta fucking mute this phone. Fucking phone. I don't really know the production company that's involved with this Friday the 13th show at all, but I do know it's gonna be on Peacock. And that's Universal. Oh, yeah, so I guess it's Universal. Oh, yeah, so Universal is making the Friday the 13th show. I forgot about that. Yeah, they announced that. So neither Paramount or Warner Brothers / New Line, none of them are involved with it. It's going to be Universal because Victor Miller just owns the rights, gave the rights to the first Friday the 13th to Universal, and they're making the show based around that first movie. Now, the rights situation is complicated because, they... Technically, Horror Inc. or fucking Horror Inc., Paramount, New Line, they own aspects of the Friday the 13th sequels, technically, and they still own, the distribution rights to the franchise, and I guess, can make merch and stuff like that. It's very complicated, but yeah, they're not involved in... I think the key thing is they can't make, new Friday the 13th shows or movies domestically themselves. Or, no, I think maybe it's either international or domestic. It's so fucking complicated. It's just such a complicated situation, but I know it's Universal making the Friday the 13th show. Just bare minimum. That's what I know. Michael Diaz asked, DC hero you'd like to see get a movie? I'd like to see The Question get a movie, just because he's super cool. I guess you could say the Watchmen movie is kind of like a Question movie, but I wouldn't want him to be that extreme or anything. I wouldn't want him to be like Rorschach. I'd want him to be the Steve Ditko Question, where he's just this really paranoid dude who's obsessed about conspiracies, and I don't know, it's just a cool character to see explored on the big screen. I think maybe a TV show would probably work better for The Question, though. Better than a movie. But, I feel like, you never really know what they'll decide to turn into a movie or a TV show. I wasn't expecting a Friday the 13th TV show, and we're getting that. I mean, I guess fucking Sean S. Cunningham was, working on a Friday the 13th show separately. But that was going to be a fucking CW style show, where it was going to be fucking Smallville style. So I'm hoping the Friday the 13th movie we're getting from Victor Miller is going to be not like that. More like the movies. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Let me see. Okay, let me see. Another atheist says, I wonder what AI spits out when I type in Dr. Wolfula. I've tried typing in, I've tried to recreate myself with, AI programs, but they can't fucking figure it out. It's just... Then again, I guess I have, a certain look to me that's hard to really recreate using, I guess, computer technology. I've never been able to make, a video game character that looks like me, that has, the sunglasses and shit. I can't, you can't find, broken sunglasses in a video game, so that's an issue. I guess I got kind of close in Elden Ring, but, you don't really... You don't have the sunglasses. You can have, an eye patch, but it's not I've never found something where it's I could just fully recreate me. It sucks. Oh, man. I wish, though. I really wish. Chad Cooper asked, have you watched Halloween 6's producer's cut? Of course I have. I made a review of it. The Halloween 6 video. I go into, the producer's cut shit. Yeah, I think that's the one I've ended up rewatching more than the theatrical version, unfortunately. I mean, I think eventually they need to make... I kind of wonder if there's a fan cut of Halloween 6, and there probably is, where it kind of combines the best aspects of the theatrical version and the producer's cut to make just the best version possible. Because there's things I like about the producer's cut and things I don't like. Same thing with the theatrical cut. Yeah, it's just like a bit of a no-win situation when you're sitting down to watch a movie with multiple cuts, because it's like, you like some aspects, but then you dislike other aspects. I know there's like extended versions of, like, for instance, just example off the top of my head, there's the extended version of Spider-Man 2. And I like to watch that extended version, but I don't watch it because it has, like, alternate takes on stuff I like from the theatrical version. It's, like, got, like, a totally, like, they use just totally different line readings of just iconic moments from the theatrical version. It's just like, oh, man, I gotta stick with the theatrical version. I had the same thing with, like, Army of Darkness. It has multiple cuts, but I always end up watching the theatrical version just because I like that ending more. It's just fun. It's just cool. Like, you know, just seeing... But the issue there is the director's cut has more stuff in it. But some things are better, some things are worse in the director's cut of Army of Darkness. Like, Ash has, like, a totally different reading of, like, when he kills Evil Ash. When he kills Evil Ash in the theatrical version, he says, "Good, bad, I'm the one with the gun," which is a fucking awesome line. It's, like, one of the best lines ever. But then in the director's cut of Army of Darkness, when he kills Evil Ash, he just says, "I'm not that good," just as, like, a response to Evil Ash saying he's the good Ash. Like, it's just like, him just saying, "I'm not that good," isn't anywhere near as good of a fucking one-liner. Like, oh, man. So I'll just, like, watch a theatrical version if it's just got, like, a line I like better. Like, it's just, oh, man. Let's find another question. Himbo Man says, what about eyeglasses with the eye patch? I've kind of been able to, like, sort of get around. I think, man, okay, I think it's called Animoji or Memoji on, like, the iPhone. And I can kind of, like, sort of, as a hodgepodge, put, like, I don't know, like, have a mixture of glasses with an eye patch and make, like, a sort of Memoji. But then I'm wearing, like, a hijab because there's no fucking hood or whatever, like, and there's also no sharp teeth option in Memoji. Like, there's just, like, no way to fucking win as far as making me in a video game or some kind of avatar creator or an AI or whatever. It sucks. I wish. It'd be cool. It'd be fucking cool. Let me see. Let's find another question. Sammyverse asks, do you think Freddy Krueger will ever return with how big horror is getting again? Supposedly the right situation with Freddy Krueger has also been kind of complicated, where Wes Craven's estate, I think, essentially has to approve of any new Nightmare on Elm Street projects that go forward, which is kind of unfortunate. Supposedly they're in the works. They're in the works to make something. I think, like, a TV series. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think they could do something good with a TV series, like what they're hopefully doing with Friday the 13th. And especially since I'm assuming not a Friday the 13th series, a Nightmare on Elm Street series would have something to do with, like, well, then again, it's, like, a difficult thing to make a Nightmare on Elm Street show if it's, like, before he becomes the Dream Killer, just because it's about a guy killing kids. I guess you could make it where he is, like, you could make it like, you know, like the 80s Nightmare on Elm Street series, where it is just about Freddy as a killer, but it's not like some kind of fucked up thing, like the 80s Nightmare on Elm Street series, where it's just Freddy has some vague connection to the events you're seeing in episodes, and it's like an anthology series. I don't know. I'm hoping, I don't know. It would be nice to see Robert Englund return as Freddy. I keep saying that. I think they could make it work. You know, you just need to, like, be creative with how you shoot it. I think, with the makeup, with the right lighting, with stand-ins, like body doubles and stuff, you could make Robert Englund work as Freddy today, but, it would be difficult, but I don't know. I guess, I think maybe it'd be for the best, unless they have, like, a really, really strong take. Definitely, definitely set Nightmare on Elm Street aside. I want to see more Freddy, but it's got to be good. I don't want to get my heart broken. It's got to be really good. Got to have like some folks behind it that really love Freddy. And I've had some people like, I did that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 review, and I was like, they need to have like fans making these movies. And like some people like misinterpret that as saying they need to hire random people on the internet that like these movies to make the movie. Like, no. What I mean by that is just they need to get some people who like the movies that are being continued and they have to have, of course, like actual experience making movies and credibility behind them. And like, of course they have to be like real legitimate filmmakers, not just like fucking random fans, like not anything like that. Like that's the ideal, where it's like they give a fuck and they also have some talent and they're not just random people with no like, cuz like the guy who directed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 not 2022 video, I guess it's technically a video on Netflix. The 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, he directed like one movie before that, and it's like not a movie I can even look up. Like it's just, he was like just available. He was like an available director they could ship into Bulgaria where they were shooting the movie because the first directors quit. Like it's never a good situation. Like get someone who really gives a shit and also has like some serious filmmaking experience. Otherwise, just don't do it. Like just don't do it. Like if it's not like if you can't tell it's gonna be a decent effort, like just don't bother. Just don't bother. Okay. It's enough ranting. Let me get some Fresca and let me just hand it over to pre-recorded me for just a minute.
Super Shag 21 asked, question for Goulash. If you could choose one of the Scooby-Doo girls to live with you in the Wolfulair basement and make videos with you, would it be Daphne, Velma, Thorn, Dusk, or Luna? I would go with Dusk from the Hex Girls. I think she would definitely help me out a lot with making videos and with some other things.
Super Shag 21 asked, question for Dr. Wolfula. Which chainsaw duel was better in your opinion? Leatherface versus Lefty or Ash versus Ball? I mean, the Leatherface versus Lefty fight is ingrained in my memory. Ash vs. Evil Dead is great. I've seen it twice, but I only vaguely remember the Ball parts of it. Ball had the potential to be a great villain, a demonic equivalent to Ash, but he didn't end up being very memorable. The Horror-tastic asks, would you rather do a Dutch rudder with 6 of your friends or go skiing with 2 of your friends? I don't know what that means. I probably shouldn't even be saying Dutch rudder if I don't know what it means. I'm kind of afraid to even know what it means. I don't know if I want to answer that question. I guess I would rather go skiing with 2 of my friends just because I know what skiing is. I don't know what that other thing is at all. Actually, I don't know. I don't want to know. I'd rather not know. All right. Okay. All right. Let me see. Let me find another question. Paul Macaluso asks, will you do reviews of MASH, the TV show, or other pop culture TV shows / movies? There was at one point going to be, there was going to be, like, I think at least just an April Fool's video where I review the pilot episode of MASH, essentially, and treat it like it's just going to be a regular thing on the channel. I would love to review episodes of MASH, but there's only so much time in the day, and I know it'd be something nobody would have any interest in seeing, so I kind of want to just try to avoid doing that the best I can. Just try my best. Ricky has a super chat. Thank you, Ricky. Any fave comic book issues based on horror films? Okay, so horror franchise comics were kind of a thing for a while in the mid 2000s, late 2000s. Wildstorm was this comic company that DC acquired, and they made like Jason comics and Freddy comics and Leatherface comics, and I read some of them, and I think my favorite out of that bunch would have been so I think it was a one-shot issue of the Friday the 13th comic, and I believe it was called Abuser and the Abused. And it's just like this story about this goth chick who's got a boyfriend that beats her and shit, and she basically kills all the people who are like, shitty to her in life, and plans to finally kill her boyfriend at Crystal Lake. And of course, Jason kills the boyfriend himself and plans to kill her next. And she tries to be like, I'm just like you and shit, and then Jason just kills her. Just a cool issue just because the art style is kind of neat. It kind of has a sort of EC Comics classic horror comic vibe to it. And also, it has, like, a lot of the issue is just a scantily clad goth chick, like, just in her, like, underwear. That's pretty nice. And it looks like I missed Loki DeWitt super chat, so let me look back at that. Oh, yeah, okay. Sorry I missed that, Loki. Loki DeWitt is a super chat. I hope the Friday the 13th TV series answers all the burning questions, like who took that picture of Jason that Roy had in his wallet in Part 5? Jason... There was a Jason photo that Roy had in his wallet in Part 5? I don't remember that. Guess I need to look back on Friday the 13th Part 5 in that case. I mean, I guess, it would be interesting to have Roy Burns be a character in the Friday the 13th TV series. A young Roy Burns. Maybe find out there's, like, more of a connection there between Roy Burns and Jason. Because I guess Roy Burns and Jason would be, around the same age. I think they would be contemporaries. So maybe you could have, like, a fucking shitty kid or whatever. Or maybe, like, Roy Burns could have been Jason's friend. Like, his one friend at Camp Crystal Lake. And that's how you set up, how he, like, carries on the legacy of Jason, like, some kind of connection there or whatever. Yeah, they could maybe do something with Roy Burns. That's for sure. Alright, let me see. Let's move on to the next question. DeathZR asks, who is your favorite, Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers? I gotta go with Michael Myers, of course. Like, he's the OG. Without Michael Myers, there's no Jason. And also, just like his theme music more. It's just more hummable. More hummable than Ki 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 Ma Ma Ma. That's still got a good beat to it, but not quite the same. Alright, let's see. Wayne Kobielka says, hey Doc, sorry I'm late, was putting a video up on my channel. Well, I'm glad you're finally here, and I'm hoping for the best for that video. Alright. Everybody, subscribe to Wayne right now. I command it. But still watch the stream. So watch the stream, subscribe to Wayne, and then watch his video. But thank you, Wayne, for finally showing up. I was missing you, Wayne. Alright, let me see. Let's see. Gary on White says, hey, Dr. Wolfula, do you think there would be a Victor Crowley TV series? Okay, that's definitely probably not going to happen. They could barely make the movies. That last fucking Victor Crowley movie was just a bunch of people sitting around inside a fake airplane that's flooded with water for most of the movie. I don't know if they have what it takes to make a fucking Victor Crowley show. It'd be, I mean, I'd be down for it if, they could put more money and effort into it than some of those later movies, but, I don't know. Kind of not, begging for it. Nicole L asks, what is a movie that has truly creeped you out, Doc? Let me think. Let me think about that. Is that a fucking... I could have sworn I heard a foghorn just now. Not foghorn leghorn, mind you, like a fucking ship foghorn. That was weird. Okay, so an actual movie that creeped me out where I'm like, oh man, that was just freaky. Yeah, I don't know if I can think of one off the top of my head because I myself am a creep, so it's hard to creep me out. Oh yeah, I guess, oh yeah, I did watch, Inland Empire recently. And that movie ends with some creepy shit at the end, where it's just Laura Dern wandering around a fucking hallway with a gun, and then she's like confronted by some kind of shapeshifter creature, and at the end, like the creature, like she shoots this being, and at the end, like you get like a close-up of its face, and it's like just like a really weird looking fucking face, like that's all distorted and stuff, and has like black slime coming out of it, like very freaky ending at the end. Like, that's the one that comes to mind at least, right now. Alright. Let me see. Okay. Michael Diaz asked, did you ever watch the Dark Shadows TV show? Never did. I do know it starred like a Johnny Depp guy named Barnabas Collins, I think was his name, but I never saw that show. Not really a big soap opera guy. Didn't see the Tim Burton movie either. So yeah, unfortunately I have no familiarity with the Dark Shadows franchise, but I have my fingers crossed that they'll make the sequel to the Tim Burton movie. I got my fingers crossed. I didn't see that first one, but I feel like a sequel would really kind of reel me in. That's how I would know. This is something I really gotta fucking catch up on. Okay, Michael Sullivan says the entity freaked me out. I guess that's what the creature at the end of Inland Empire is called. Inland Empire is fucking weird movie. All David Lynch movies are weird, but yeah, that's definitely the weirdest David Lynch movie. I could not really tell you what happened in Inland Empire at all, which is, I guess, the point. It's supposed to be like you're watching somebody's dream, and they don't quite make sense, and there's, like, parts where it's just, like, you don't know what's going on. Like, there's, like, some sense of a narrative in a dream for a little bit, and then it could kind of just go into, like, a weird direction, and then the narrative gets reintroduced in a dream, and you're like, what's going on? Or, like, it goes in a totally different direction. So it kind of captures that perfectly. Alright, Sammyverse asks, what are your thoughts on horror anthologies? I love them. I feel like there's not enough, great horror anthologies nowadays, but, especially movie horror anthologies. You don't see enough of those lately. But they're always fun, like, at least when it's... I definitely prefer horror anthologies where it's not like... Because, like, I guess a lot of modern horror anthologies are... Let's kind of just cut together 3 separate horror shorts that have very little to do with each other stylistically or thematically, visually, like, just totally different horror shorts. And there isn't really even a sense of, like, an overarching... like, framing device to tie them together either. Like, I'm not a big fan of those kind of horror anthology movies. I like, my preference for a horror anthology movie is all the stories are directed by the same guy, and so it's, all the different stories are consistent in the approach and style. Like, you feel like it's like a cohesive thing. And there's like of course, there's the, there is a framing device. So yeah, Creepshow is definitely the one that comes to mind. George Romero directs the whole movie, and it's got a solid framing device. So, want to see more stuff like that, or stuff like Trick or Treat, where it's an inventive approach to an anthology story where it's separate stories, but they kind of overlap with each other on the same night, and they kind of go back and forth, where it's also kind of like Pulp Fiction. I'm really hoping we someday get a Trick or Treat too. Feel like it's never gonna happen at this point, but man, I remember when I think it was like 2014, when the director of Trick or Treat announced, "We're working on the sequel." Never happened. Never fucking happened. Made Krampus, made the Godzilla sequel, never fucking made Trick or Treat 2. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. Just hasn't happened yet. Ricky has a super chat. Thank you, Ricky. Have you seen both Never Hike Alone and Never Hike in the Snow? Both really good Friday the 13th fan films, and have Tom Matthews return as Tommy Jarvis. Yeah, I've checked them out. They're really cool. Definitely appreciate the Tom Matthews cameo at the end of the first one. So definitely the best example probably of Friday the 13th fan films, because there's so many. There's like a lot. But, you know, I'm still hoping we get like a really good Friday the 13th official sequel someday. I'm hoping for it. But I think it is kind of funny, ironically, that the Friday the 13th series just ends at fucking 12 movies. Honestly, only 11 technically, if you don't count a crossover movie as like an actual entry in a series. I guess I kind of do, so it'd be so fucking funny, though, I guess, if it just ends at 12, never makes it to 13. It'd be kind of funny, I guess. Kind of in a sad way. Alright, Tobers asks, you a Star Trek fan? Whether or not you are, do you agree that a strictly horror-themed series of Star Trek would be great? I think so. I guess they could do it where, Captain Kirk suddenly becomes super pale. Like, he goes to a random planet, he becomes very pale. He stops wearing his normal captain uniform and starts wearing, like, sort of a bluish jumpsuit, and he's just, like, on the loose on the Starship Enterprise. I think that could kind of work with a horror Star Trek series. He's just on the loose. He's, like, just killing everybody on the ship. I think that would be a good approach if they were to make a horror Star Trek series. Just pale Captain Kirk. That's all I want. And, you know, make it William Shatner again, just because I think he could still pull it off. I think he could still definitely pull it off. Anyway, Blakester Savage asks, hey Doc, have you seen Mystery Incorporated on YouTube yet? It's pretty dang good for a live-action fan film TV series. Yeah, I checked it out. It's not really my kind of thing, but, you know, it's well made, and I'm glad folks who like the kind of Riverdale thing, you know, get, like, some kind of approach to that with Scooby-Doo, but not really something I'm interested in, like the teen drama kind of approach to Scooby-Doo. Yeah, not my kind of thing, but, you know, it's there for folks who like it. Alright, let's see. Let's find another question. Well, I guess while I search for the next question, let's do some shout-outs for a minute. It's that time again for me to give thanks and present my monthly Wolfulair shout-outs to the top-tier supporters on Patreon and my YouTube channel memberships. Link to all of these folks are in the description. Subscribe to the Steam Lord on YouTube today, a prolific YouTube poop creator who has a new Simpsons Treehouse of Horror collab coming soon, so subscribe and stay tuned for it. Check out and subscribe to Maverick Media, a YouTube review channel with plenty of horror news, breakdowns, and Maverick has begun a series of videos reviewing Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. So if you like Goosebumps Goose Days, these should be right up your alley. Next, I'm gonna have to suggest that you check out Rockland Graves Productions, an up-and-comer in the realm of horror YouTube who also produces some great music. I gotta give a shout out to the Sick Squad, a YouTube channel with a unique style and a wide range of horror content, including reviews, music, and so much more. Oh wait, whoops, wrong slide. Thank you, pre-recorded me, for allowing me to drink some more Fresca. Alright, let me find the next question. Alright, Michael Diaz asked, least favorite horror franchise. I guess I'd have to go with Thanksgiving franchise. At least all because of that fucking sequel. Like, that sequel, Thanksgiving 3, makes it a franchise technically. And I fucking hate that sequel. I hated making that video. I hated having to try to figure out some way to make just the most unfunny attempt at like a funny horror movie. Like it's just a brutal fucking movie to watch. The Anime Hero asks, is Franken-Creepy a good Scooby movie? I've never seen Franken-Creepy. There's a lot of the later animated direct-to-video Scooby movies I still haven't seen, but they're there. They're there for me, so if I'm ever in the mood to check them out, I guess I could finally make it happen. Admittedly, I miss when I don't have cable. I just have streaming, and I do miss like something like that would just play on Cartoon Network. And if I can't find anything else to watch, I could just fucking put it on, and I could just watch it and just have it on. But I don't have that anymore. That's something I do miss about, just watching cable. But the unfortunate thing about cable TV is that they don't play anything you'd ever want to watch anymore. It's just like, I feel like every time I tune into a channel, they're playing just the same show, non-stop, all day long. Just no variety. It's upsetting. Oh, wait, James Crane says your live audio is quiet and the pre-recorded is loud as fuck. Is it? Oh, no. Oh, wait, well, okay. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't quite do the right mixing I needed to do, so it's an unfortunate thing. I wish I fixed that before the stream. I forgot to do that, so if there's like, a mixture of audio levels, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'll try to make sure next stream it's not the case. Sorry about that. Nicole L says Doc needs to do a cooking channel. I don't think I need to do that, but maybe I'll do some kind of cooking video in the future. Not necessarily, begging to make it happen, but, maybe. Fingers crossed, maybe eventually I will make some cooking videos. The Horrortastic asks, what do you think about the Human Centipede franchise? I have only seen that first movie, so I couldn't tell you anything about the sequels. I'm not in a huge rush to see any of the sequels. It's just one of those things where it's like, do I want to keep going back to these movies that are essentially about a guy stapling people's faces to other people's asses and making them eat shit? Am I that compelled by that premise to go back and watch sequels? I'm not compelled enough to watch the fucking first movie ever again, so I don't know how compelled I am to see, like, sequels to that. I guess they exist. I guess if there's, like, a interest in it, I guess I could make some videos about them, but that's the only reason why I'd ever watch another one of those movies, just to make, like, videos about them. Green Man just says VTuber. Yeah, I guess this is a VTuber thing, unfortunately. I wish the other VTubers didn't exist. When I started doing these animated things, VTubers weren't really a thing. Now they're everywhere. I guess it's kind of like when Brooks gets out of prison in Shawshank Redemption. Like, when he was out on the outside, he barely ever saw cars. And then when he gets out of prison, they're just everywhere. They're just ubiquitous. It's unfortunate. Alright, Michael Sullivan says, hopefully Unwanted Guest takes your advice. He's out in the woods, wandering around. Yeah, I hope things work out for him. But I got a feeling that things will work out just fine for Unwanted House Guest. Not because I've already recorded some things. But he did ask me to appear in one of his music videos, upcoming music videos, and apparently he wants me to sing in it. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but we'll see how it works out, I guess. I guess we'll see. Alright, let's see. Let's find another question. Joseph Williams asks, how cool would a Scooby-Doo Friday the 13th crossover animated movie be? Well, they did do like a Robot Chicken skit that had like the cast from the live-action Scooby-Doo movies reprising their roles and getting killed off by Jason. So that's like the closest you can get to it. But, you know, I was thinking it would be kind of cool to have like a pastiche horror movie where essentially you have a mystery solving gang of characters. And I think maybe they actually did a movie kind of like this recently. I think, but yeah, you just have like characters who are very explicitly based on the Scooby Gang, and the the menace they have to face off against is an actual like fucking Jason like killer, that kind of thing. Not have it be like an official crossover movie or something, but have it be like, the next best thing. 3 Trailers Down has a super chat. Thank you, 3 Trailers Thank you, 3 Trailers Down. I almost said 3 Trailers Drown. Hey, Doc, hey, Doc, any advice on growing a channel? I know I need to post more, but seems like I've been stuck at 180 subscribers for a little while now. Well, here's the thing about when I started my channel. Like, I didn't get 100 subscribers until, like, 3 years into making stuff on the channel. So it takes a while. Like, it takes a while to, like, grow an audience. The key thing is to just be persistent and enjoy making videos and other stuff. And eventually an audience will come if you just keep going. That's the key thing, is persistence. Because, it's like very discouraging at first. I've been there. It's very discouraging when you make something and nobody watches it. Like, the first videos I'd post, maybe if I was lucky in a week, they'd have 5 views. Like, it's kind of depressing. But at the same time, it is a little freeing, just because you're just entertaining yourself, and you're not like, it's an aspect I do miss about that time period is not like thinking, well, are people gonna like this? Are people gonna be receptive to this? Are they gonna be okay with me making this kind of video? Or is anyone gonna watch? Like, instead you're just thinking, this is just the thing I want to make, so I'm just gonna make it. So that's like a key thing. Like, and as long as you're having a good time, it doesn't really matter if anybody watches it. That's like, always a plus. But as long as you're having a good time, that's the key thing to take out of any creative pursuits. Because, if you're having a good time, that's, it's always rewarding. I've tried to, like, word it in a much more, like, profound way, but it didn't end up happening. Just have a good time, and you'll just have a good time. That's what life's all about. It's about having a good time at the end of the day. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, a good time. Yeah, I like having a good time. I think we all do. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let me see. Let me scroll. Oh, wait. Okay. Zamkiki Kingtress says, I can't stay, but I wanted to drop in and say love your content. Well, hopefully they stuck around to me. Hopefully they stuck around to hear me respond to their comment. Unfortunately, they probably left already, but thank you, Zamtiki. William Slater says, I think Velma is a good show. I'm fine with you thinking that. It's, everybody has their own opinions. Yeah, I think it's, like, I wasn't bored watching the show. It's a show, I wasn't like, oh, man, like, it was a show where it was like, I wasn't so into the writing or the voice acting or anything like that. But, it's an okay-looking show. I feel like people were ultra hard on the way it looked. But I feel like, it had a passable art style and, some all-right animation and some good, some good backgrounds. Like, I feel like it was just a solid-looking show. Just, and, I wasn't bored. Like, stuff was constantly happening. Like, but, it wasn't really my kind of thing. But, if you liked it, more power to you, I guess. More power to you. Kenny Clifford asks, or Kenny Clifford just says, I'm too stoned to ask a relevant question. Well, you still got a response from me, so pat yourself on the back, Kenny. That's worth something. That's worth something. All right. Let me get some more Patreon questions in, then I'll get back to you guys. All right. Get some fresh.
Nicole L18 asked, Doc, would you be willing, if they can be found, to do a lookbook review of old Halloween catalogs? I would like to make some more diverse videos about topics like that. It would be a fun idea to look back at old Halloween costumes and decorations. Nicole L18 asked, what is your all-time favorite store to physically shop at? Like, you could be there all day until they kick you out. I really like to shop at Best Buy because it's one of the only retail chains around me that still carries DVDs and Blu-rays, but the stores in my area have been steadily shrinking their inventories of physical media. I went to Amoeba once in Hollywood, and it was really cool. All the physical media I could ever want to shop for, but I don't have anything like that near me. Nicole L18 asked, Goulash, might be a little on the controversial side, but would you be willing to review the Halloween episodes of Roseanne, or maybe Halloween-based episodes of shows in general? It would be fun to delve into notable Halloween specials over the years, maybe rank some Halloween specials from live-action sitcoms.
Alrighty, let's find another question. SSG SS4 just says, Poltergeist, Hellraiser, Maniac Cop. Yeah, that's a list of movies. I did review the first Hellraiser, so, yeah, that's a list of movies. He also says Elm Street. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that list of movies is. I guess it's just recommendations of movies I should cover or something. I don't know, but I appreciate it. Carl asks, how do you take care of your voice? What kind of voice care do you do to not tear your voice? I don't really do anything to take care of my voice, besides drinking lots of Fresca. Probably should do something about that, but, I don't, so, you know? It's always a little scary where, I guess, yeah, that would be fucked up. If I lost my voice where I just couldn't talk anymore, that would be really sad, because then I wouldn't be able to do this anymore. It would just, I guess I could open up a blog or something, have no one fucking read it. So, yeah, I'm hoping for the best. Hopefully, the voice still, you know, is still kicking years later. You know, probably not the best idea doing these long streams, of just me talking exclusively, but, I'm still doing them. I'm still doing them now. Billy the Kid asks, Joe Bob is back. Have you been watching, Doc? Of course I have. Watched the last drive-in. I want to say die-in. I'm so used to saying die-in. Watch the last drive-in. It's so weird also saying the last drive-in on Shudder last Friday. Always have a great time watching Joe Bob. Glad to see he's back. Ah, man. The only downside is I can't stream on Fridays. Ah, man. But that's, you know, that's life. Always, you know, I gotta give Fridays to Joe Bob. I gotta give Fridays to Joe Bob. Xavier the God has a super chat. I'm disappointed that we're getting a Friday the 13th show instead of a movie, but if it's good, I can't complain. I mean, I think it's got a lot of potential to be good. I don't want to say I think it's gonna be good, because, you know, we don't really know enough about it. But I think, you know, I liked Hannibal. At least, like, you know, the 2.5 seasons I watched of it. I still haven't seen all of the 3rd season. So I thought Hannibal was a pretty good show, and it's got a huge fan base. So I think Brian Fuller can make a good Friday the 13th show, but I guess we'll wait and see. I think it has the potential to, like, be its own thing, separate from the movies, that's good on its own, like Hannibal was, you know. Hannibal, the NBC show, was just its own thing, just separate from the Anthony Hopkins Hannibal we were familiar with in the films, and it's just loved just separately from Silence of the Lambs and all the other stuff Anthony Hopkins did, you know. So it's a possibility the same can happen with Friday the 13th. Name Redacted says, I'm just excited for more Friday the 13th content. Yeah, you know, that's That's the kind of attitude we really need to have going into things like this. I try to have that kind of attitude. Like, even with like the Munsters movie was announced, I shit on it in some ways, but I did one of these streams about that Munsters movie, and I was like, Rob Zombie really likes the Munsters. I think he can do a fine Munsters movie, and I still haven't seen it, just because I heard a lot of people didn't like it, but I guess eventually I'll see it, but, I try to, I don't want to totally... I mean, once I saw the trailer for that Munsters movie, all bets were off. I was like, okay, this looks like total dog shit. But when it was just like isolated set photos, I was like, this could be okay. Wait and see. I try to have that kind of approach to things until it's like, same thing with Velma. Like, people were shitting on it before there was any fucking trailers or anything. It was just Mindy Kaling is making a Velma show, and people were like, oh, fuck this, like, for really bad reasons too. But then the trailer released for the Velma show, and I was like, all right, this looks like total shit. So once we get to the trailer stage of things, then I can get a little bit more, I could have like a little bit more of a stronger reaction. Probably shouldn't have that kind of reaction to a trailer, though. To be totally fair, I should not be looking at a trailer and like judging something based on a trailer. But it happens anyway. It happens. Can't help it. It is what it is. Gary on White asks, hey, Dr. Wolfula, there's a Hatchet 5 and 6, such as Hatchet 5 in 2026? I haven't heard of any new Hatchet things coming out. I guess a Hatchet 5 coming out makes sense just because it would be the 20th anniversary of the franchise, but it feels like very, very far in advance to be announcing something like a Hatchet sequel, like 3 years ahead of time when... making a Hatchet movie, as far as at least shooting it, would only take like a few months, and like maybe a few months of post-production. So it would make sense though, I kind of wonder if Kane Hodder would still have it in him to keep playing Victor Crowley though. I even at that point, kind of getting on in years, I think, but I guess we'll see. I mean, the last one, Victor Crowley, came out 7 years ago now, nearly a decade ago. Ugh. All right. 12 Heads asks, why do so many Scooby spin-offs not include the entire gang? Even classic Scooby-Doo shows did this. Well, with Velma, I kind of go into the possible reasoning why there is no... Like, why there's no Scooby, for instance, in the Velma show. There's no Scooby, and there's technically no Shaggy either, just because they're the characters that are the most valuable to Warner Brothers, and they don't want to possibly ruin those characters for kids. They don't want to have Scooby, like, hanging out with the gang, making fucking, reefer jokes, and, like, have Scooby, like, decapitate a guy or shit like that. They don't want to have anything like that, so Scooby's just not on the show. And they don't have Shaggy on the show, technically. They just call him Norval, and he's, like, totally different design-wise besides a green shirt, because they don't want to have, like, Shaggy in the Velma show fucking accidentally crushes a woman's head. Like, they don't want to have that kind of, association with, like, two of their most beloved cartoon characters. So it's just like, alright, it's just Fred, Daphne, and of course Velma. Like, and Norval. We're not that worried about them getting ruined. They're not as beloved as Shaggy and Scooby, which is why, you don't have Shaggy and Scooby in that show. But the reason why, the 80s shows slowly and gradually got rid of Fred and Velma, and eventually even Daphne with the made-for-TV movies, the late 80s made-for-TV movies, is just because of they were starting, in the 80s, they were starting to, and this was at a point where TV networks were being acquired by, like, fucking soft drink companies and shit. So at this point, they were starting to focus test TV shows, and especially cartoon shows for kids. And eventually, I guess they decided kids weren't responding as strongly to Fred, Velma, and Daphne. So let's get rid of them and replace them with fucking Flim Flam. And before that, Scrappy. Let's have Daphne dress up like April O'Neil and shit like that. Like, you know, it's just... And that's not really a great way to approach making anything. But that's what they were doing. That's what they were fucking doing, unfortunately. And that's just how it happened. But eventually they stopped doing that, and they were just like, let's just make it classic again. And it's just been the, at least in the main Scooby cartoons and shows, it's just been the main gang going forward. That's what I prefer ultimately. I don't need fucking Scrappy. Some people miss Scrappy. I don't miss him. All right, let me go to some more Patreon questions. All right.
Forrest Mackley asked, what decade do you think is the best overall for horror films? Some of my absolute favorites are from the 70s, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and Evil Dead was technically shot and completed in the 70s, but wasn't released until 81. But I feel like the 80s easily had the most fun and diverse selection of horror movies compared to any decade. Seedrood asked, Doc, is there a popular horror movie or horror movie franchise that you found was just too unbearable to watch, to the point you had to turn it off? I've endured some movies for this channel I would otherwise have turned off if I hadn't committed to making videos about them, like Thanksgiving 3.
Turkey's gonna be pretty damn pissed when he finds out about this.
But the only horror movie I can think of that I initially shut off was Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 at the coffee shop scene. It was just so annoying.
No.
I've since seen Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 for the sake of this channel probably 6 times or something, and I've seen Thanksgiving 3 twice, unfortunately.
Sorry about the audio levels there. I'm trying to fix them in real time, but yeah, this stream was very last minute, so there's some little issues here and there, but I just had to spend some time with you guys before the month was over, so sorry about the audio level issues with the pre-recorded stuff. But let me find another question. Sammyverse asks, do you think the Five Nights at Freddy's movie will be good? Matthew Lillard has me excited. You know, I wouldn't be that interested in it if it didn't have Matthew Lillard in it, so I'm definitely intrigued by that, just seeing Matthew Lillard in, like, a new thing that's, like, you know, kind of high profile compared to some of the stuff he's been in, lately, besides, like, Scooby cartoon voices. It'll be nice to see him again. But yeah, okay. Oh, shit, I just realized, I think maybe oh, man, I think part of the issue is I lowered my audio level on my mic, like, lower than it needed to be. Oh, fuck. Hopefully... Oh, shit, I did do that. Oh, shit. I meant to only lower the audio level for the actual pre-recorded stuff, but now I realize, oh, man, it was not at the right level the whole time. Fuck me. Oh, man, I hate audio engineering shit. It is not my forte. But anyway, back to Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of the franchise. I'm just not really super interested in it. But seeing Matthew Lillard in it will definitely give me something to look forward to, at least. I know I'll probably end up making a video about Five Nights at Freddy's the movie, just because it's, like, such a big thing, and there's, like, lots of desire to hear my take on it. But, that's always a little iffy thing. I'm hoping I like it, just because... It's, like, not fun when it's, like, a thing people love, and I'm like, this is just how I feel, like, you know, when I have to kind of deal with, you know, some backlash for a little bit, surrounding, a movie people potentially liked, or at least a movie based on a franchise people like. I got my fingers crossed, you know, I got my fingers crossed. I mean, people were fucking eating me alive for not liking Willy's Wonderland that much, so I can only imagine, like, if I don't like the fucking Five Nights at Freddy's movie, how that's gonna play out. Dreading it. Gavin Elrod asks, do you think we'll get a season 3 of Mystery Incorporated? So this is Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, the animated series. We were supposed to supposedly get, like, a 3rd season. They wanted to make more, but Cartoon Network was really shitty at the time. I guess it still is. Like, you know, they were going downhill. They weren't, like, really promoting their shows. They were, like, making lots of great... They were, like, getting into making lots of great animated shows at this point in time. They were getting out of that funk they were in for a little while, where they were, like, making really shitty live-action shows and movies. They were, like, making great animated shows, but they just didn't fucking bother promoting them. They put them in terrible time slots. You know, it's unfortunate. Like, they made that Thundercats show that got 1 season. It sucks. Like, Mystery Incorporated was, like, a really great Scooby show, and they threw it to the wolves. And then, you know, Be Cool Scooby-Doo was pretty okay. I feel like it was okay. Like, you know, some people really liked it, and from what I've seen, it was a funny show. Didn't really like the art style, but, you know, it's a funny, entertaining take on Scooby. But even with that, they released it direct to Boomerang, like, and Boomerang was just, like, they ruined Boomerang, too, like, where Boomerang is, like, just, like, it used to be, Boomerang, when it was released, it was, like, the channel where they show all their classic Hanna-Barbera shows, and then it just got turned into, let's make it a graveyard for all the animated shows we don't believe in enough to put on Cartoon Network, like, just new shows that may or may not be good, but ultimately we just don't think they're a good fit for Cartoon Network. So let's just put them on Boomerang. Like Boomerang was supposed to be the Turner Classic Movies of cartoons, and now it's just like, I don't even know what the fuck it's supposed to be. It sucks, man. It's very sad and disappointing what happened with Boomerang. It's always a delight to watch Boomerang and go from Boomerang and Cartoon Network and see some good cartoons. Now it's just like, it's just whatever to them. But yeah, I don't think Mystery Incorporated will get a 3rd season. It's possible it could get, like, at least, like, an animated direct-to-video movie. Maybe could happen. But I don't necessarily see them ever going back to that, unfortunately. I wish they would. I mean, it's been a while since we've gotten, like, just a straight animated Scooby animated show. Besides Velma, like, just where it's like, you know, they're solving mysteries and stuff. So I'm hoping if they go back to that formula with a show, they make it like a good, like, they make it like something like Mystery Incorporated again. I'd be open to that for sure, like a spiritual successor, kind of. Alright, okay, let's find another question. 12head says, I haven't made it through Thanksgiving 3 even once out of the 4 times I've tried. Love the first, though. The first movie is a fun movie to watch. The 3rd one is just brutal to watch. Like, it's just like, oh man, what were they thinking with this shit? Oh, it just sucks so much. It's like not anything that you ever want from a 3rd or 2nd fucking Thanksgiving movie, where it's just a bunch of puppets and, like, guys dressed up like pilgrims or whatever, like colonial era shit. Like, just like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you fucking think? It's like they fucking smoked it's like they were smoking weed consistently throughout the making of Thanksgiving 3. They never once stopped smoking weed while making that movie and thought, this will be a fun fucking movie to watch, and it's just like, not. It's just fucking not fun to watch at all. Death ZR says, hey Doc, I'm a huge fan. I've been watching your videos since 8 years ago. Thanks for your videos. Well, thank you, Death. Thank you. Thank you for watching for so long. That's been since, okay, 2015. Oh, man. I hate the fact that 8 years ago is 2015. Oh, fuck. Oh, dear Lord. Oh, God. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for watching my videos. Sammyverse says, what are your thoughts on an animated horror film? Well, we kind of get those. We sort of get those, kind of. You know, I know Phil Tippett, who is the legendary effects artist. He recently did Mad God, which is an example. We get, you know, animated horror movies from time to time. Unfortunately, we just kind of don't see them very often, just because animation takes lots of time and effort, and oftentimes lots of money, especially compared to just shooting something. And the horror genre is much more based around, you know, cost efficiency, how cost effective something is. Like, kind of investing as little money as possible into a thing and making as much money back as possible. And it's an unfortunate thing where if you're not like a Disney or a Pixar or a DreamWorks and you release an animated movie, there's a good chance you're not making much money back at the box office or streaming or home video or whatever. However you release it, you're not going to be making a lot of money back. You're going to be spending a lot of money, not going to be making much money back, unfortunately. And it really sucks. It's like people don't really respect animation as a medium like they should, and it's really unfortunate, but it's just how it is. Hopefully things change. It's such a slow process. Like, it's such a slow process getting people to think of animation not as a genre, like as just its own medium, its own separate medium that can be more than just fucking princesses singing and shit, cartoon animals, that kind of shit. But it's just been slow going. It's been slow going, but I'm hoping we can get like some good animated horror movies. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Austin Travis says, I wish they'd make a Scooby-Doo show with the art style of Zombie Island and the feel that movie, and with the feel of that movie, and have some of the monsters be real and some be fake to see if you could guess which is real or not. I mean, that's the formula they went with those early direct-to-video movies in general. At least with, like, Witch's Ghost and Alien Invaders. And, okay, yeah, Witch's Ghost and Alien Invaders, they have, like, an initial ghost or monster that was, like, a fake. And then the fucking real monsters would pop up. So, you know, yeah, it would be cool to see that approach again. There was supposed to be, like, a fifth entry in those direct-to-video Scooby movies that just didn't end up getting made. Like, they were supposed to keep going in that dark, kind of more grounded sort of approach with the direct-to-video Scooby movies, but then they made, like, Vampire of Mexico or whatever was the one after fucking Cyber Chase, and made it more like the consistent approach they've been going ever since, unfortunately, for the last 20 years, which is the animated Scooby movies are just extended episodes of Scooby-Doo where the monster is just always going to be a guy in a costume, never going to be a real monster anymore. And it seems like they have like some kind of, I've theorized that they have some kind of mandate at Warner Brothers where you're only allowed to have real monsters in major Scooby projects, where you can have real monsters in like a live action Scooby-Doo movie, like a theatrical movie, because that's going to be in theaters, and they don't want to like cheap. I guess maybe they were thinking, if we have like real monsters all the time in like the direct-to-video movies, it'll really cheapen our live action films or Scoob or whatever. So we need to make it a special occasion kind of thing. And you know, it's kind of sort of weakened the animated movies ever since. It's unfortunate. Tobers says, for real this time, I'm heading out. Love you, Doc, and Wolfie Lights. If you haven't watched Film Cow streams, they're very therapeutic. Take care, and see all of you next time. Well, good night to you, Tobers. And good evening to you, Anthony. Good evening. All right, let's find another question. Another question for me, Dr. Wolfula. Philip Carroll says, how would you rewrite The Evil Dead Rise to make it less disappointing? Well, I mean, I wasn't really disappointed with it. I really enjoyed it. It's like just a really great horror movie in general. I feel like I would focus more on, I don't know, like more on the characters as more of like a relatable family. Like maybe go into like establish the kids as being like in school and stuff, get an idea of just what their lives are like instead of just focusing on, well, this is what this character is into. They're into like protests, and the mother's into tattoos, and the son is into like fucking DJ. Like just like focus more on like what they're like is just like a family, just to make it a little bit more heartbreaking when it kind of all falls apart. Like, because I just didn't really feel a connection between the characters in the family. I don't know. I felt more of a family connection with the brother and sister in the 2013 movie than the actual family in the recent film. So, just strengthen the family and also have like a much more wilder ending. Like just something crazy and out there, like, like the fucking classic Evil Dead movies. Don't just do what they did. I don't want to spoil what happens, but it's a very like low-key kind of ending. And if it's like, I don't know, you see like a fucking wood chipper in the movie established early on in the film. It's like Chekhov's wood chipper. They're gonna use it, and it's just the most convenient kind of simplistic way to kind of take out a character. But oh well. But I liked it overall. Just kind of, I don't know. Just kind of wish they kind of tweaked a few things is all. And thank you to Lee for joining my movie night tier on the channel memberships. Welcome, and I'm looking forward to seeing you, Lee, tomorrow night when we stream Sleepaway Camp. Xavier the God is a super chat. My B-day was 420, and I'm finally 20 and not a teen. Well, hell yeah. Just one more year and you can legally drink. But I'm sure you're already smoking up and drinking nonstop anyway, because you're a party animal, Xavier. But happy birthday to you. Happy late birthday to you. Sharing a birthday with Hitler. That's got to be kind of something. I bet Hitler got really stoned all the time. I mean, come on. He was born on 420. You're like, come on. All right. Billy the Kid says, hey Doc, did you check out any new trailers from CinemaCon over the week? There are some new horror movies coming out like the Black Box 2 and Saw 10 and etc. I didn't even hear about, I saw like a logo for the new Saw movie, but I didn't even hear about any trailers coming out. I guess I'm really like behind on my fucking horror news lately. That's why I talked about like a Friday the 13th show that's nowhere near to coming out anytime soon. I guess there's some big horror news I missed out. I guess unfortunately I've been spending less time on social media, so I guess maybe I should change that. I've been like not looking at social media intentionally just because it can be a little rough to look at any social media, and I've just been trying to wean myself off it, but I guess I miss out on some stuff, unfortunately. Oh, okay, Billy the Kid says Black Phone, not Black Box. Okay, yeah, I saw the first Black Phone. I'm kind of surprised it's getting a sequel. I thought it was a good movie. I'm surprised, though, like, what could they really make with a sequel to Black Phone? Like, it's like, what do you bring back? The way it ends, it's just like, this is just the end to this story. There's no, like, central monster, and it's not like fucking Bagul in Sinister, the other fucking movie the writers and directors did. Like, it's not like you got a Bagul in that movie. I guess maybe they could bring back Ethan Hawke as a ghost or something, but it's just like that's the guy. That's the iconic thing of the movie, and it's like he gets fucking taken out. Like, does he come back as a ghost? What does he do as a ghost? I don't know. But I haven't seen the trailer. Maybe they explain it all in the trailer. Sammyverse asks, are you excited for Maxine? I'm hoping it'll be as good as X and Pearl. I'm looking forward to Maxine. I saw X and Pearl both last year, and I thought they were really good. I especially liked Pearl. So I think, Maxine will probably be really damn good, but, it's a wait-and-see kind of thing. All right, let's move on to some more shout-outs for a minute.
Listen to and follow the Dead and Married podcast, a married couples podcast dedicated to horror, available wherever you listen to your podcasts. This podcast has been very supportive of me in the past, and they've gone through a terrible tragedy recently, losing their daughter. So it would especially mean a lot to me if you would subscribe to Dead and Married's podcast, listen to their back catalog of episodes, and show your support to them during this difficult time. Thank you. Subscribe and follow the Podmortem podcast for all of your horror listening needs. They do weekly discussions of horror films, and their most recent episode covers David Fincher's Zodiac. Follow Moshmania, an Instagram page featuring cosplays of horror icons like Jason and Michael Myers. Follow Allison Gray's Instagram page, Creator for Hire, to check out their lovely art. They also do commissions for between $5 and $10, and you should also follow them at Twitter at Creator for Hire.
All right, Ricky has a super chat. Thank you, Ricky. Your fave comedy horror films? Mine are Shaun of the Dead, Tucker and Dale, and does anything Scooby-Doo related count as comedy horror? I think my favorite horror comedy has got to be Evil Dead 2. It's technically a comedic film. It's got lots of physical humor in it. So I guess I would go with Evil Dead 2, but I guess if you want more of like something that's primarily comedy first, I guess I would go with Shaun of the Dead as like comedy horror and not horror comedy. I guess that's like the key thing, where Evil Dead horror is the primary thing, but then there's the comedy. But with Shaun of the Dead, it's very clearly just fucking comedy first, and then there's like, it's got zombies in it, it's horror. So yeah, either one of those two, definitely two of my favorites. And like I said in the pre-recorded shout-out, really check out Dead and Married's podcast. I was very heartbroken to see the news of what happened to their daughter. It really, really broke my heart, seeing like these people who supported me so much going through such a terrible thing in their lives. So definitely check them out. Definitely subscribe to their podcast. It would mean a lot to me because, oh man, no one should have to go through what they just went through. Billy the Kid says, or Hot Fuzz. I guess, yeah, Hot Fuzz has a lot of horror to it. Honestly, I'm a huger fan of Hot Fuzz compared to Shaun of the Dead. I've rewatched Hot Fuzz so many more times than Shaun of the Dead. And I like Shaun of the Dead, but man, fucking Hot Fuzz is just so fucking funny and so fun to watch. Like, they really did a great job their second go around making a movie. It's just such a kick-ass movie. All right, let's find another question. Austin Travis asks, how do you feel about Kiss meets Scooby-Doo and Doc? We need more Goosebumps reviews. And what's your favorite Goosebumps episode and book? I've never seen the Kiss meets Scooby-Doo movie. Eventually, I gotta check it out someday soon, but I never saw it. But my favorite Goosebumps episode / book, I guess I would have to go with One Day in Horrorland. Just because I like spooky theme park settings, and it's all about a spooky theme park. I was really disappointed. Initially, I heard the Goosebumps movie sequel was going to take place in Horrorland. It was going to be Goosebumps Horrorland movie. But I guess last minute they decided, let's just not do that. Let's just make a Goosebumps Jumanji again. So, yeah, very sad about that. I'm hoping to one day see Horrorland done on a larger scale in a movie or a show. I know Disney Plus is making a fucking Goosebumps show. Don't have high hopes for a Disney Goosebumps show. Hopefully that's good, but yeah, don't have high hopes. I feel like the Goosebumps franchise has been really poorly handled in recent years, where it's just like, I don't even, like, I feel like when they make the Goosebumps show, it'll just be like Goosebumps Jumanji again, where the monsters from the books are unleashed again, and the kids have to put them back in the books for a whole show. Not an anthology thing, not based on any of the books. We're gonna use the most fucking generic monsters from the books we could possibly use. We're not gonna use any of the iconic ones. Like my other favorite Goosebumps story is The Haunted Mask. And the Goosebumps movie has the Haunted Mask in it, but she's just a background character. She's just like an extra. They don't use her at all. She's like one of the most iconic Goosebumps characters, and she's just like in the background. It's just like in that movie, that Jack Black movie, it was just like, here's the giant mantis from the Shock Street cover, or here's gnomes from that Gnomes book, or whatever. Here's the fucking abominable snowman. Like, oh man, just fuck you. Just fuck you. Alright, whatever though. It's in the past now. Archer asks, how do you get shoutouts? What Patreon tier is that? Well, this will be very easy for you because it's the shoutout tier on Patreon. So just for $10 a month, you'll get a shoutout from me, in one of these streams, and also on my Instagram page, and also on my Twitter page. So, and also in every video and stream, you'll also get a special thanks credit. Before all the other credits, the scrolling credits happen. And the scrolling credits also only appear in longer videos, so even if it's a short video, you'll always get a credit. So, if you're interested in supporting the channel, going the extra mile, shout out tier is there, just $10 a month. And you also get access to the movie nights, too, in that tier. And also early access to videos, stuff like that. So you'll get everything, too. And that's the highest tier on my Patreon. There's no, like, fucking $25, $100 tiers or whatever. It's just 4 tiers. Pretty simple. Not super expensive. So, you want to support the channel, they're there. I appreciate it. Okay, Beat New 3000 says, the Haunted Mask should have totally been the main villain of the second movie, with it being set during Halloween and all. I feel like it was such a missed opportunity to... Like, I would have loved to have, like, a hard PG Goosebumps anthology movie that kind of just does the best fucking Goosebumps stories as, like, half-hour stories, or maybe even, like, 40-minute stories, just, like, 3 of them put together. That would have been so fucking cool. Like, just something that's really spooky and really... Instead of just, like, the, goofy, fun family movies where it's just, like, not scary. Like, Goosebumps is supposed to be scary. Yeah, the Jack Black movies were not scary at all. Like, nothing spooky about them. Just, they're fun, I guess. You can have a fun time watching them, but it's just, like... not the vibe you're necessarily hoping for from Goosebumps. Like, just something a little spooky. Like, something spooky, not just like... whatever the hell they were doing. I don't know. Billy the Kid says, there's a trailer for the new Haunted Mansion movie. Yeah, I did see that trailer, and I thought it looks pretty good. Definitely, it's like what I would wish for a Goosebumps show or movie made, where it's actually... kind of looks like it could be a horror movie, but it's still got some humor to it, I guess, and some comedy. It's got fucking Owen Wilson and shit in it, Lakeith Stanfield, so it's, it's gonna be a little bit more on the funny side, but it looked like it has a dark atmosphere like the ride. I mean, the ride in itself is a very creepy ride. Like, it has a very dark, spooky aesthetic. But it also, is very tongue-in-cheek, where there's just constant gags and stuff at the same time. So, if they can pull that off with the movie, it'll be a pretty solid movie, I think. Okay, Sammy T says, have you heard about the news for the new Alien movie coming out soon? Yeah, I didn't even hear about a new Alien movie. Apparently there's like a CinemaCon. I didn't hear about this at all. I really need to catch up. Oh, man, I've just been, like, in isolation, I guess, this whole time. Dear Lord. Austin Travis asks, have you seen the Are You Afraid of the Dark reboot TV series? And if you did, what did you think about it? I wish I saw it. I still need to check it out. I heard really good things about it, but I never watched it. and I really liked the original Are You Afraid of the Dark back in the day, so I really got to check out the new one, because I hear it's good, just never got around to seeing it. Alright, let's see. Let's find another question. Sammyverse says, I'm hoping Jack Black comes back for the Goosebumps show, but I'm happy Justin Long is in it. If they do the anthology approach with the Goosebumps Disney Plus show, I wouldn't mind if it was like some of the special episodes of Goosebumps, like the hour-longs, had actual R.L. Stine introducing the episodes. But if they did the anthology approach with the show, I'm hoping... I'm not necessarily hoping. I'd be fine with Jack Black playing R.L. Stine again, doing intros for all the episodes. That'd be kind of cool, like him being sort of like a Crypt Keeper kind of guy. I'd be fine with that, but yeah, that's the key thing. I just want it to be a creepy show for kids, like, kid creepy, not like, hard R-rated, anything like that. And, something that's anthology, that has the anthology approach where they're adapting all the books and stuff, not just whatever the hell they were doing with the movies. And the movies were fine, like they weren't terrible or anything, just not quite what you necessarily hope for with a Goosebumps thing, but just, I guess, passably fine, fun family movies, but nah, it's just a disappointment, I guess. Alright, Sammy T asks, I know you mostly talk about horror movies and monster stuff, but have you seen the teaser trailer for the new Godzilla x Kong movie? Also, with the X in the title, does that mean Godzilla and Kong are going to bang? I'm hoping they finally fuck, because that, if they don't fuck and the X is in the title, that's going to be very misleading. A lot of people are going to be very disappointed. But yeah, I only saw the logo for it. I didn't even know there's a fucking trailer for that movie already. I just saw a logo for it, and like the X really made me laugh just because it does sound like it's gonna be like a romance movie or something. It's like, I guess they're like, okay, we can't call it Godzilla and Kong. Like that sounds too goofy, and they're not fighting anymore, so we can't use verses. So let's call it Godzilla x Kong. I guess that works, Tells them who's in the movie. I guess it's trying to sound like some kind of fucking collaboration, like, between two brands. Like, I guess that kind of thing. Not the best title. Not a strong title. But, I guess I'm more interested in Godzilla and King Kong teaming up than fighting, though. So I'm definitely gonna give this one a watch, But then again, I never finished the fucking Godzilla versus Kong movie, though. Still need to finish it. Watched the first half. Never finished it, though. But definitely, I'm never a big fan of really the fighting movies. They just feel like fucking fan bait, masturbatory fucking material. Just like, let's see them fight. Let's find out what happens. And you just end up disappointing people where it's like, oh man, that's the outcome of the fight. Like, I'm fine with them just teaming up. I don't need to see them fight. I don't care that much. Who wins in a fucking fight. Especially since you have to, like, to make it fair, you have to make King Kong incredibly large. Like, in the fucking classic movies, he's just, like, the size of... He's, like, maybe, like, 4 stories tall or something. Gotta make him, like, a lot bigger anyway. So you're already having to cheat to make a fucking crossover movie work where they fight. So, I'm not that interested, I guess. As far as them fighting, at least. Alright, let's get some more pre-recorded questions in. From my Patreon supporters.
Wow Player asked, question for Goulash. Does it bring you joy or any emotion of any kind to see that your master's/overlord's favorite franchise has been utterly gutted? I guess you might be talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and, you know, I guess I'd be happy if I wasn't the one he takes his frustrations out on.
Rooster Montgomery asked, Doc, have you ever thought of making a t-shirt that says, because that makes total fucking sense? I thought about making t-shirts around specific lines or jokes I've said in my videos. It's just I usually forget about them once the videos are done. So if there are any suggestions for merch, feel free to let me know. Alright, I think I'm gonna play one more segment from the Patreon questions, just because I really need to take a leak. I'll be right back. Nurplex asked, do you plan on creating your own horror movie someday, and have you ever written a script for it? I had to partially write a horror movie script for a project, but it was only the first act of the actual screenplay, with an outline going into what happens in the overall story. It was written before that movie Hellfest was made, but it ended up being very similar to Hellfest in retrospect. I would love to make a horror movie myself, though. It's just not something I would want to rush into. I gotta have an idea I'm happy with first, and it would need to be feasible to make on a micro budget. I probably will need to start small with some shorts first. Hollow asked, have you played Pizza Tower? I haven't played it, but I see it all the time on the front page of Steam. I'll probably try it on my Steam Deck whenever it goes on sale. Whoa, got back here just in time. Dear Lord, okay. That was cutting it close, though. That was cutting it close, damn. Racing the clock. Taking that piss. Alright, okay. Let's find some more questions. Alright. Let's see, Galfred's dog says, I like 2014 Godzilla and Kong Skull Island, but King of the Monsters felt like an epilepsy test, and Godzilla vs. Kong felt like it was made for a dog with ADHD. I guess that's an interesting summary of those movies. But yeah, I've never been a big giant monster person besides King Kong. Just, you know, there's just something about a big furry ape creature that just, I don't know, works for me better than the kaiju. And, you know, people, like, argue that Godzilla has more of a fucking grander mythos and lots more monster supporting characters, but, you know, it's just more about that giant monkey. I don't know. That's just more my kind of thing. And that, like, fucking dinosaur island. Just a little bit more low-key. I don't need, like, energy blasts or anything like that. Just, you know, a giant monkey fucking things up. It's more my kind of thing. And I guess, you know, I'm just more into the stop motion of the original King Kong than the suit motion of Godzilla. I'm not as into that kind of thing. But it's, you know, it's cool, just not really my kind of thing. Alright, Michael Sullivan asks, Doc, are you excited for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game, or does it look iffy? It looks very iffy to me. It's by the Friday the 13th developers, or at least one of the two developers. The two developers that went off and just did these other fucking horror franchise, asymmetrical multiplayer games. They don't have a lot of credibility in my book. Even if that first Friday the 13th, even if the Friday the 13th game was finished, it's still a very, like, very clunky game that's not polished at all. Like, so I'm just like, they making a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. I'm just like, all right, are they really gonna be able to make, like, something solid? Especially I got Jedi Survivor, a AAA multi-million-dollar video game, and it runs like shit on my PS5. Screen tearing nonstop, stuttery, doesn't maintain a consistent frame rate, and it's a fucking AAA game. It's like, I don't have a lot of faith in, like, this Texas Chainsaw Massacre game releasing in, like, a good state, where it's like launch day. It's like, oh, this game fucking runs well. It's gonna run, it's based on just how things have been going lately with game releases. It's gonna run like total shit. Where it's like a roll of the dice if you'll get into a match too. Like, I don't know. You know, yeah, so that's an aspect of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that's iffy. But also just the fact that they don't have like a solid, from what I've seen, they don't have like a solid plan to bring in characters from the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels. Instead, it is just, Leatherface, the hitchhiker, the cook, Grandpa, and then just 3 fucking fan fiction characters they introduced to that core family that you can play as, I guess, or whatever. It's just, because they even said early on, we don't have enough characters to work with, so we're just gonna kind of make up some characters to use. So, I don't know. I feel like there's just not enough there in that original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie to fuel asymmetrical horror game. I would have so much more preferred if they just made a single-player game. Just an original campaign with Leatherface in it, and you have to survive, and there's a story and stuff. Or just maybe one of those narrative-style games where you make choices, that kind of thing. Just something different than, the fucking asymmetrical thing. It worked for something like Evil Dead just because they were able to acquire all the rights to all the movies and just get all the characters in there, but I don't know. I don't know about Texas Chainsaw Massacre working so well. Well. Okay, let me see, and greetings to that time I watched. Okay, Despacito Businessman says, what's everyone's thoughts on that Killer Clowns from Outer Space asymmetrical game coming up? Okay, so that's from, the other developer of the Friday the 13th game. So there's, 2 developers that kind of, I guess, work together. That one looks much more polished looking. I'm not so sure about making, an asymmetrical Killer Clowns from Outer Space game. I don't know why everything has to be asymmetrical multiplayer. But that looks more like, a solid, polished game. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre game looks janky as hell to me. So it makes me think it was, the jankiness of the Friday the 13th game was because of that developer behind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game coming out. Because, the Killer Clowns game looks pretty okay. It looks pretty good. Looks like it'll be fun. It looks like it's, decently made based on at least just the gameplay footage. Loki DeWitt says, if that means I can play Matthew McConaughey's character from Next Generation, sign me up. Oh yeah, I mean, that's the key thing, is that they don't necessarily have any characters from the sequels that are gonna be DLC or whatever. So it would be something else if they could not only get the rights to use Matthew McConaughey's character, Vilmer, I believe was his character's name from Next Generation, if they could get Vilmer into the game, but also, not only that, but also get Matthew McConaughey's likeness for a video game and also get him to voice the character. That'd be fucking crazy. That'd be awesome. That'd be something worth checking out. I would love that. It's probably not going to happen. I think Matthew McConaughey has even gone to the point of refusing to acknowledge that he was in Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation. Scream Factory released a Blu-ray of Next Generation, and it initially had Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey on the cover, but last minute, rumor has it, because they showed a cover with them, originally they showed the cover and both of them were on the cover. But then last minute, they were removed from the cover. So rumor has it that the agents of Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey, pressured them, or maybe just lawyers, even not even just agents, lawyers pressured Scream Factory not to put them on the cover. You can't put them on the cover. Or maybe they paid off Scream Factory to not be on the cover. I don't know what happened, but they were not on that cover. So it makes me think they're just trying to cover up, cover up them being in that movie, which is always kind of sad to me. It's always more fun when an actor who is in a horror movie, especially even if it was a really particularly bad horror movie, they're still proud of it. They still acknowledge it. It's always more fun. I saw an interview where Paul Rudd was asked about Halloween Curse of Michael Myers, and he barely gave it an acknowledgement. Like, I think he just said, that's a movie that exists, I think, or something, and it's like, come on, dude, just talk about that movie. It'd be so fun. Come on. You're a huge actor. You don't have to worry about that movie existing hurting your career. Like, your career, you're a fucking Ant-Man. I guess that's a big deal. Like, you can talk about Halloween 6. You can acknowledge you were in that movie. Come on, man. SPY says Friday the 13th show. Yeah, I talk about the Friday the 13th show at the start of this stream. So, you're going to have to catch the rerun if you want to hear my thoughts on that show. At least my hopes and dreams for the show, at least. Sorry about that if you missed that first half hour. Way Cool Dude asks, what horror movie could work well as an asymmetrical multiplayer game? I think Evil Dead and Friday the 13th were probably the best options. I think maybe a Nightmare on Elm Street could work as an asymmetrical game. I would prefer it to be like a Silent Hill kind of thing. But if it could work as an asymmetrical horror game where you're basically Freddy creating nightmares for the victims, and they have to try to wake up. They have to try to wake up, and I guess you could have like a stage where if they successfully wake up, they bring in Freddy into the real world, and they have to fuck him up before he gets away or whatever. I could work. Like, you're kind of warping the levels and stuff as Freddy, and you're popping up in different forms, like slashing them up. Maybe even disguising yourself as other characters. Freddy Krueger asymmetrical game could work well. But, wouldn't be the first option I'd want to go with a Freddy game. I would prefer something single player, because I'm more of a single player guy. There are people who only play multiplayer games, and I can respect that. I can respect that, but it's just not my thing primarily. Unless it's like Mario Kart, I play some Mario Kart online. I have some fun with that, but otherwise, just not really as into multiplayer stuff, just for fun. Sammy T asked, who's your favorite Jason? Well, I guess my favorite Jason visually would be Part 6's Jason, played by C.J. Graham. But my favorite Jason actor I mentioned earlier is Ted White, just because, he brought a very unique human approach to the physicality and body language to Jason, and just had, this cool, intense energy to him playing Jason. Especially remarkable just because he was the oldest Jason up to that point. I think he was in his 50s playing Jason in Part 4. So yeah, definitely my favorite Jason actor. Alright, gonna be going into some more shoutouts, and I'll be right back to talk to you guys some more.
Follow the Shape of Evil page on Instagram for horror cosplays and all things Halloween franchise. Follow Trevor Seance66 on Instagram to witness some fantastic horror memorabilia, and also spiders if you're braver than I. Follow Scott Topic on Instagram as well if you want to check out some kick-ass horror memorabilia, including customized Michael Myers masks. Follow Trevirus06 on Instagram. He's the guitarist and vocalist for the death metal band Carnotaurus. Give his music a listen to today. Super Shag21 wanted me to recommend that you subscribe to his good friend Humor Waffle's Dark Animation channel, and keep an eye out for invites to the Humor Waffle Discord server, because they host movie nights every Monday. Sean O'Brien just wanted a regular shout out, so I'd just like to give thanks to Sean for all the help he's given me over the years.
Alright, cracked open another Fresca. Here we go. Oh, yeah. Oh, man, that tastes so good. Oh, fuck yeah. Oh, man. Lady Carmilla Sanguina says, you like Ted White more than Kane Hodder? Yeah, I definitely like Ted White more than Kane Hodder. Rest in peace, Ted White. I think maybe I even like Steve Dash more than Kane Hodder. Kane Hodder's a great Jason, just not necessarily my favorite actor as Jason. He did play Jason the most. He stuck with Jason the longest, but not necessarily my favorite actor. Archer asks, what snacks you mess with? Oh, man, I gotta say my favorite snack for a few years I think is completely discontinued. It was the Doritos Jacked, like the Doritos Ranch Buffalo Jacked chips, whatever the fuck they called them. Those were like they were buffalo wing flavored Doritos. They were really good. Don't exist anymore. Never see them in the stores anymore. It makes me sad because those are the only fucking Doritos I really, really liked. I can eat the other ones, but man, that was just such a good flavor. It's just gotta bring them back. Otherwise, I guess I just not as big on snacks anymore. I feel like they don't make. I guess I really lean towards any snack foods that are kind of buffalo wing flavored. Really like buffalo wing flavored snacks. I guess anytime I find them at a store, I get like the buffalo wing flavored Cheez-Its, which taste pretty good. But I think they're only carried at like Walmart and Publix, so I don't go either of those stores very often, so I don't get those as often as I want. Man, I feel like snacks are just getting so fucking bad. Like, we're just stuck with very bland, basic flavors, and then they'll just have like fucking wacky flavors that will only be on shelves for a month. So it's just like, man. Okay, let's find another question. Next Gen Studios asks, do you think Crystal Lake, the show, will purposely set up and lead into a new movie reboot? I guess that would be, smart. It'd be a very savvy thing to do if they kind of just segued into a new film franchise. I guess maybe they could approach it as, well, as like an alternate, just Friday the 13th series, essentially, where, okay, maybe we don't have the rights to Jason as a killer necessarily and with a hockey mask, but maybe we can have like a new killer that kind of is spawned by this show, or at least a new approach to a Jason character or whatever. And I guess they could maybe carry the series forward in that way, but wouldn't necessarily be so into, continuing the movies in that kind of way as like fucking TV spin-offs necessarily, but I am hoping the TV show is directly tied into the movies themselves. Like, it isn't just, this is a new franchise, or this is a new timeline, this is a new, just a rebooted timeline where we can just do whatever and not worry about the movies that came before. I'm hoping they do kind of tie in directly to the movies, and I don't know. I just, as a change of pace, essentially, just because you see that so often with these TV prequel shows like Bates Motel and Hannibal, where it's like just an alternate universe, like just for a change, be like, no, those movies did happen. They just haven't happened yet, but our show will tie into the movies, and it won't be like a thing where, okay, well, we're introducing things that completely go against anything you saw in the movies. I'm just hoping, just consistent with the movies in general. Sammyverse asks, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? I really loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, so I'm really looking forward to the sequel, but I am admittedly a little iffy on the trailers I've seen. It looks like a fun movie, like a cool, fun movie, but it feels like, I don't know, kind of, based on what they've shown, at least so far, they've really just been leaning into the spider realm, or whatever the fuck it is, where they all hang out, or all the different Spider-Men from different universes hang out. They've really been focusing on that aspect, and I'm hoping it isn't like a movie that takes place in just like a world populated by Spider-Men. Like, I'm hoping there's like a story outside of that, like where I'm just not so sure about it being like that kind of approach. And like, it does, based on what they've shown, feel like a little too heavy on fan service, where we're just throwing all these Spider-Men at once at you from all the different comics and cartoons, where it's like, it is cool seeing, like, the Spider-Man Unlimited Spider-Man appear in the movie, for instance. Because, you know, I remember that cartoon. I watched that cartoon on Fox Kids. So it's cool to see that, like, acknowledged. But at the same time, I'm just, like, just throwing in all these different Spider-Man. Like, I was more fine with the approach of, here's, like, 5 different... Here's, like, 4... Like, here's, like, a few Spider-Men and, like, 2 Spider-Girls. Like, you know, just focus on them. Like, really gave you a chance to get to know their characters and, like, flesh them out. Like, I feel like having that many Spider-Men at once will kind of maybe possibly dilute it a little bit, where it will just be like, all right, we barely get to spend time with the Peter B. Parker Spider-Man. We barely get to spend time with, like, Spider-Gwen or any of the other ones we know, and it's just like, we're just going to be throwing a bunch of Spider-Men at you at once, and mostly just focusing on Miles, because there's just so many other Spider-Men to, like, kind of fit in, squeeze in there, like, so I'm a little iffy on, I guess, some of the aspects in the trailers, but I'm sure it'll be a fun movie, and it'll be a good movie. Just hoping my fears are laid to rest once I see the movie, and it's not what I'm afraid it might turn out to be like, I guess. Michael Diaz says, I heard that the Toei Spider-Man will be in it. Okay, well, that would be kind of fun to see Spider-Man with, like, a machine gun. That'd be fucking cool. Saying that he's an emissary from hell. I guess, you know, it'll all be worth it if that happens. Oh, man, fingers crossed. He better fucking say he's an emissary from hell if he's in the movie. He better fucking say it. Sony better not fucking pussy out, like... Because we all know Spider-Man is an emissary from hell, after all. Like, that's the first thing we think of with Spider-Man. Spider-Man, he's an emissary from hell. Also, he can spin webs any size. He catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the emissary from hell. Alright, let's find another question. Gary Onwhite asks, Hey Doc, I have a question. Do you think Andrew Young will survive Hatchet 5? So you know, and Andrew Young is like the, so in all the Hatchet movies, there's like, they have like this same actor reappear multiple times, and in Hatchet 3, he actually survives in that one, like the 2 times he survived before he died. I mean, the 2 times he appeared as separate characters, he died both times, so I guess the joke was just, this time he lives. And he lived through 2 of them. So, I don't know if he would come back. I don't really care that much. I mean, but you gotta have that actor come back, though. And I think his character is just Andrew Young at this point. He's not, like, jumping between characters anymore. I guess it would be funny if they made Hatchet 5, and they had the actor play just 2 separate guys in the movie. Or just, like, keep adding on, like, just the same actor. Like, don't even, like, do any makeup on him. He's just, like, the same guy over and over again. And just imagine all the Asians look-alike jokes they could keep fucking doing if they do that. Just imagine it. Ah. So, fingers crossed, I guess. More Andrew Young. Or at least the actor that plays him. Alright, let's find another question. Spy says, I wasn't surprised that 2099 is somewhat a villain, but definitely a good-ass design. I was surprised they went that direction with the 2099 Spider-Man, where he is, like, gonna be the villain of the movie. Just, I didn't get that sense in the post-credit scene, and it seemed like they really made him ultra buff for the sequel, because I remember the post-credit scene. You know, he wasn't really that muscular, but in the new movie, I guess he was like, he's been lifting weights because he's like fucking huge. I guess they wanted him, like, he looks like, I don't know, it's just crazy. Like, so I guess I guess they wanted to make him look a little bit more intimidating compared to other Spider-Men, who are, you know, muscular, but a little bit more on the lithe side, I guess. But yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I am intrigued. Sammy T asked, do you think the romance between Miles and Gwen could work in Across the Spider-Verse? I don't think it could work just because they're from different universes, and we all know long-distance relationships never work. So I think, don't you die if you're in another universe too long? They established that, so I don't think it could work out. And, I don't know. I guess I don't really know much about Miles as far as, like, what romantic interests he has. I know that I played the Miles Morales game, and he did have, like, a deaf girl that he seemed to have a crush on, and seemed to have a crush on the main villain in the game, the Tinkerer, but that's pretty much it. So I don't really know what they could go in, what direction they could go with as far as, like, romance is concerned with Miles Morales. I don't know. I don't know what his fucking Mary Jane Watson is. So it'd be kind of fucked up if his Mary Jane Watson is just an alternate universe version of a girlfriend Peter Parker had. Like, I don't... It's a little weird. I don't know. Just seems a little strange, but, whatever. All right, gotta show some more Q&A questions from my Patreon supporters.
Hollow asked, hey Doc, do you think New Nightmare killed the Elm Street series? I watched 2 vids on it and honestly don't agree, but what's your thoughts on it? New Nightmare definitely didn't kill the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Turning Freddy into a Looney Tunes character and then actually trying to definitively kill him off is what killed him. I guess having a film that treats Freddy as fiction within the narrative didn't help, but New Line just didn't know what to do with Freddy at a certain point, and New Nightmare was its own thing at the end of the day. Henrietta One-Eye Cooper 11 asked, Dr. Wolfula, I was wondering, have you ever watched any of the Puppet Master movies? And if so, what was your favorite? I've only seen bits and pieces of them on TV, like Sci-Fi Channel. I haven't gotten really familiar with them yet, but I will at some point. Johnny asked, why does Doc wear an eye patch? Is there lore behind it, or is it just badass? I don't wear an eye patch. It's just my sunglasses are missing a lens is all. I'm very self-conscious about it. I have 2 functioning eyes, I swear. Staghorn the Druid asked, Goulash, what did you want to be when you grew up? I wanted to be a doctor. A real one, mind you, not whatever the hell my creator is supposed to be. Staghorn the Druid asked, hey Doc, 9 Inch Nails or White Zombie? 9 Inch Nails, I guess, just because it's music I'd actually listen to. Brandy Broken asked, hey Doc, for the next Friday the 13th stream, what do you think about challenge mode on the game where you get to play out these scenes from the movies? Could be fun watching you 3-skull all the missions, and you won't have to worry about online connections. I could definitely go for that. I'll probably do something like that as a pre-recorded video instead of a live stream, just because I'm not sure if that'd make for a very long stream or not.
All right, Archer asks, how would you do the next Halloween movie or TV series? How would you start it? I think the key thing the key approach, I guess if you're doing a movie, I would want to essentially do a thing where, the key thing is, it needs to take place in a new timeline just because, that's the only feasible way to do it. You can't really continue on, the Laurie Strode story is just done. Like, there's just nowhere else you can go with that. So you would need to take place in a new timeline that's contemporary. It takes place today. And you would essentially, the approach I would take is just, Michael Myers is the same as you always have known him. He has the same basic backstory. He kills his older sister on a Halloween. And, from there, it's the same Michael Myers you always know. It's just, there isn't necessarily a Dr. Loomis, and there's definitely no Laurie Strode. You basically just create a whole new set of characters surrounding him, and reimagine where his story goes from the point where he kills his sister. Like, just essentially, because I know they're gonna bring it back, so essentially, just kind of have to start fresh, but just kind of sidestep what we're familiar with and try to, take it into a different direction. But to me, you can't really mess with Michael Myers that much, just because he's just really easy to mess up. So you need to try to keep him as pure as possible. You can't really fuck around with him too much, because then it never really works out. It just never works out. It always works out best if he's just, I guess the other key thing is I would want to bring it back to what it was like in the original Halloween, where you barely ever see Michael Myers. He is in the shadows. You never really get a good glimpse of him throughout the first movie at all. You never get, like, a fucking close-up of his mask at all. You never get anything like that. It's always like he's out of focus, he's in the background, something like that. That's a key approach that all the Halloween sequels have been sorely missing to a certain degree, where they just show you too much of Michael, and he just becomes he ends up becoming a little treated too much like a fucking superhero or something, where instead of like this ominous presence in the background, you know he's there, but you don't know when he's gonna pop out. They kind of telegraph it very clearly when he's appearing. Like, it's not as effective, because the weakness of the original Halloween is, at least as far as rewatching it, is it works really well the first time you watch it, because you the whole time you're just kind of watching it. You don't know when he's gonna pop out. They keep showing him in the background. It's just this, when is he gonna pop out? And then eventually he does pop out, but when you see it the next time, you're like, well, I know when he's gonna pop out. That's part of the strength of, like, Friday the 13th movies as far as rewatching them, where they don't really focus on the suspense aspect at all. But when Jason pops out, you see, like, a really wacky death happen that's really creative and cool, that you don't really necessarily get as much with a Halloween movie, for the most part. So, it does make the Friday the 13th movies much more watchable, but the key thing, I guess, is just making the first time watching a Halloween movie really strong again, where you are just like, what the fuck's gonna happen? Where is Michael? And I guess, Halloween 2018 had that to a certain degree, but where, you had, like, the closet scene that got spoiled in the trailers, but even that, it's like, he's just in the closet suddenly. It's like, why is Michael Myers in, like, this random little kid's closet? They don't, like, establish him entering the home or anything like that. It's just, he's just suddenly in this kid's closet, which is scary, but it's not the same kind of thing as we're kind of go do the work of we're establishing Michael as being around, but you don't know where he's gonna end up and when he's gonna finally attack these characters. Like, definitely that's a key area where if they continue making Halloween movies, they need to get back into that direction, just because it just was a lot more effective, I think. That's the key thing to Michael, is just, he's more of a presence. He's not as much of a guy who's on the screen, like, stabbing people nonstop. I did like that in the recent movies, but he shouldn't be on screen that much, really. And technically, people complained about Halloween Ends not having much Michael Myers in it. The ironic thing is Michael Myers has more on-screen time in Halloween Ends than he does in the original Halloween. It might not necessarily have been the kind of on-screen time people wanted, where, most of the time he's on screen, he's, like, sitting in a sewer. But he's on the screen more than the original movie. All right, let's see. Let's find another question. Michael Diaz just says, no Laurie Strode, modern times, acknowledge COVID and the hardships in the world. Then after a glimmer of light in 2021, Michael comes home to snuff out that light. Okay, well, don't acknowledge COVID. That's the thing I did like about Halloween Ends, is what a lot of the things that are going on in Halloween Ends, and especially the tragedy and grief, is it's an allegory for COVID, but they never address COVID directly at all. Like, it's like, just like, a metaphor for COVID, kind of. Like, this town is kind of rotted away. Like, essentially, Michael Myers is this disease, and, like, it's kind of spread throughout the town, and it's just this sickness, like that kind of thing. But you know, I don't want to hear about COVID anywhere in any movie, like, or show. It's just, you know, I don't need to be reminded about it. Like, it sucked. Now we don't need to have direct acknowledgement about any of that kind of stuff. All right, okay. Let's find another question. Another question. All right. Sammyverse asks, what is your favorite horror villain design-wise? Let me think about that. 'Cause I don't want to say anything super obvious. I guess maybe I would go with... I don't want to say, like, the super obvious one. I'm trying to think much more outside the box. Where it's like, oh, fuck, that guy's super cool. I guess honestly, maybe I like the new Nightmare Freddy as far as just being a cool design. Like, it's a little goofy, but as far as being like this cool action figure buff version of Freddy, you know, it looks like a cool action figure design, I guess. Like, something I'd want to put on a shelf. Not necessarily I'd want to see in a bunch of Freddy movies, but it looks cool. Like, the trench coat. And the streamlined, weird design where his hat is green for some reason, and he's not really burned up. It's, like, much more clean. Like, even the scars are clean. Like, it kind of looks cool. Like, just I don't know, like just a interesting approach. Like a Todd McFarlane version of fucking Freddy Krueger, I guess. All right. Well, let's... cut to okay, well, let me see. AWC Thrasher asks, hey Doc, have you seen Pumpkinhead? Yeah, of course I've seen the first Pumpkinhead. I haven't seen any of the sequels. I was really harsh towards Pumpkinhead in my old riff view of the original movie. I would like to revisit it and, like, do it a little bit more better justice, just because a lot of people didn't really appreciate, how I approached my Pumpkinhead video, so I would like to at least give that first movie another try. Sammy T asks, will you review the popular Friday the 13th fan film, Never Hike Alone? It's a possibility, especially since I don't have any more Friday the 13th movies to cover, at least for now. I mean, I guess I am intending to revisit some of the, Friday the 13th videos I reviewed, like, really early on. Like, a lot of my Friday the 13th videos are, like, over a decade old, so I probably will revisit those at some point. But, as far as Never Hike Alone is concerned, it's a possibility, but I generally don't cover fan film stuff as much, just because it's freely available for anybody to watch, so it's not as much of a priority compared to something somebody actually has to pay to see. Like, if you want to, if you want to have a take on Never Hike Alone, you could just watch it. Like, you don't have to hear me chat about it at all. Like, that's at least, like, part of what I hope to bring to the table in my videos is, here's a recommendation, like, is this movie worth your cash to see, or something like that. But with a fan film, it's just, you can just watch it. You can just check it out, and everybody's heard about it. It's just, a ubiquitous film within the Friday the 13th fan base, so it's just not as big of a priority, but it's a possibility. All right, let's cut to the final shout-outs of the night. And here's a full list of my shout-out tier supporters on Patreon and my YouTube channel memberships. Their support is greatly appreciated and helps the channel to continue to thrive and grow through these many years. It wouldn't be possible without all their help. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Remember that links to all of these folks are in the description. Support my Patreon to get bonus content, including early access to videos and exclusive weekly bonus movie streams every Sunday. My next bonus movie night stream will be Sleepaway Camp. Support me at patreon.com/drwolfula today to gain access to this and other upcoming movie streams. Also, shoutouts. Man, you can really tell this stream was super last minute. Lots of fuck-ups in the middle of this stream. That last shout-out was not the correct size. Oh, man. Fixed it, but still, really embarrassing when shit like that happens. Oh, well. Okay, let's answer some final questions before I head out for the night. Sammyverse asked, do you think any creepypastas would work as movies? I think some of them could work, and the reason why I know that is because there was this really great anthology series, basically like Sci-Fi Channel's answer to American Horror Story, called Channel Zero. And each season of Channel Zero, at least I think up to like the 4th season, each season was an adaptation of a different creepypasta story. So the first season was Candle Cove, and the second season was No End House, and the third season was, I don't know, I only watched the first 2 seasons, but those first 2 seasons were really good. And the thing is that they didn't really just straight up adapt the creepypasta stories. They really expanded and reimagined the stories, where it wasn't just like, you know, here's the story as you knew it. It just really built on what was already there, like, you know, just solid premises, like, where, like, No End House, I think, in the original creepypasta was just like a haunted house that you go into, and I guess it seemingly never ends. Like, it's been a while since I read that one, but it has, like, all kinds of crazy rooms and stuff. But the TV adaptation of it in Channel Zero, it was like, all right, you exit the house, but then you end up in this, like, weird alternate reality where, I guess certain things, like, this weird alternate version of your reality or whatever, where there's, like, it's been a while since I saw that season, but it was fucking crazy, where they have, like, the main character's dad exists in this reality, because I think she created him in her mind, but he's, like, some kind of cannibal that, like, needs to consume people for their memories or something. Like, really fucking weird and crazy. I need to rewatch that show. But yeah, you know, Channel Zero was really good. Definitely recommend checking that out. But you know, they made that Slender Man movie. I didn't see it. I heard it was bad. So it's a hit and miss kind of thing. I did see the Marble Hornets movie. Barely had anything to do with the actual web series. And that kind of sucked. So, you know, it could be hit and miss. There's the unfortunate thing with, like, some creepypasta things is they just, sometimes, I don't know, it's a vague area where creepypastas, I don't know, are technically copyrighted. I don't, like, sometimes, like, you can have unauthorized adaptations of creepypastas, I guess. Like, just because it's, like, freely available fan work, some people have the approach of, well, if it's on the internet, I can just use it for whatever I want, and, like, I don't know, treat like, these stories as, like, memes or something. I don't know. I guess maybe that's part of why you don't see many creepypasta adaptations in movies or shows, just because it could be a little hard to, like, nail down who owns the rights to the story and, like, get them properly paid. And, like, it's just a more complicated experience especially when it's, like, something that's just freely available online anyway, compared to adapting a book that's, like, sold in a bookstore. You know exactly who wrote it, and it's just easier to, like, fucking figure out how to acquire the rights and shit like that. And it's also just, you know, with a book, it's like, you know, people have to pay to read it. They're gonna, you know, it's not like something people are used to just getting for free with, like, a creepypasta. So it's harder to translate creepypastas into, like, mainstream success, also just because it's, like, part of the appeal of a creepypasta story is that it's just, you can just read it for free on the internet. It's like, expecting someone to go from, like, you know, reading a thing for free and then paying money to see the movie or, you know, stream the show or whatever. It's like a whole different kind of proposition, essentially. All right, let's find another question. Passion of the Chimp says, I summon the presence of Billy Zane. Yeah, that's right. This was the first stream in a long time where Billy Zane never appeared. I don't know where he is right now. Guess I maybe should have announced this stream further in advance, promoted it on my social media, because he's not here. He never showed up. Oh, God. Billy, where are you? I hope you're safe. Well, I hope I didn't do anything to upset you either. Anyway, yeah. Sammyverse says, what are your thoughts on all the YouTubers becoming directors of very good movies? Well, I mean, I got no issues with that, especially since I'm hoping to someday count myself among their ranks, you know? Way Cool Dude says, do you have a favorite Spider-Man game? I mean, back in the day, you know, I played the Dreamcast Spider-Man game, and I played, of course, I played the 2 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man games on my Xbox. You know, I played those. And, you know, I liked them, but yeah, the fucking Insomniac Spider-Man game is definitely the best Spider-Man game I've played. I've just played it just endlessly. Like, I've just replayed it so many times. I just have a lot of fun, like, just swinging around the city, like, fighting random crimes. It's just, you know, fantastic game. I'm looking forward to the sequel this year. I'm kind of doubting it's coming out this year. They still haven't shown any gameplay at all. So I'd be surprised if it actually came out this year. I'm hoping it comes out this year and it's also polished and ready for release, like, unlike a lot of other games. I mean, it's a first-party PlayStation game, so chances are it's gonna be, you know, really well polished. I think the only real exception to that is the Last of Us PC port that came out this year, but it's not quite the same thing. It's a PC port, so you know, it's not the same thing as like something made specifically for the PS5. But yeah, you know, if it comes out this year, I'm definitely gonna be fucking playing the hell out of Spider-Man 2, that's for sure. It's supposed to, but I don't know. We'll see. But then again, I feel like that's like an unfortunate, as far as like, you know, dealing with having to wait years upon years for video games, like, the Spider-Man game, if you don't count the Miles Morales game, the last Spider-Man game came out 5 years ago, so waiting 5 years and still not seeing anything, that's an unfortunate strategy with, like, so many fucking video games nowadays, where you won't get to see any gameplay of the game until maybe a month before the game releases, maybe even sometimes just a couple weeks before it releases, because there's just, like, this kind of arrogant confidence where people will buy the game no matter what. We don't have to show them jack shit. Like, you don't have to tell me anything plot-wise. I'm fine with that. Just show me what the gameplay is like. Show me what it looks like. I don't know. I'm just like, don't want to have to fucking wait years, like, just in the dark, just about what a game is gonna be like. Ugh, man. Loki DeWitt asks, what about the Wolverine game they teased around the same time? I mean, I'll probably check that out. Not really. The only Marvel character I really like is Spider-Man, so I have no real interest in Wolverine or the X-Men that much. So yeah, I'm not as, you know, I mean, if it's as good as the fucking, if it's as good as the Spider-Man game, I'll definitely pick up Wolverine, but, you know, I'm not as interested in it, just because I'm not really that into Wolverine. Bill Hart has a super chat. Thank you, Bill. Hey, Doc, I saw you were live and stopped by to say you run a good show. Well, thank you, Bill. Actually, nearing the end of this stream, we're actually at, this is the longest stream to date. Just by, like, maybe, like, 10 minutes or so. But, yeah, 3 hours, 12 minutes. Actually, no, this is, I think I did some game streams that are longer than this, but this is the longest After Dark stream to date. But Lance Davis says Billy Zane is currently filming Demon Knight 2. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, that explains where he's been. Okay. Alright, Kate Winslet is in the chat, though. Doc, draw me like one of your French schools. Billy's currently busy eating. Oh, man. I guess I never knew Kate Winslet and Billy Zane were a thing, I guess it makes sense because, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio died in the movie. You know, eventually, she's gotta fucking move on with her life and get back with Billy. I'm sure, like, being on the Titanic disaster, you know, made Billy Zane's character, you know, a better person in the long run. Like, he grew. Like, he grew and became a better guy, and that's what I like to think. Way Cool Dude asks, what horror movie franchise should stay dead? So, it should never come back. I think the Human Centipede series should definitely stay dead. I mean, I don't know what they could do next. So yeah, you know, they shouldn't have made more than one movie. They honestly maybe shouldn't have even made the first movie in general. So, that definitely shouldn't come back. That's the one that comes to mind. I don't know what else they could do. I guess they could make a Human Centipede movie where everybody on the planet it becomes a centipede. Like, so it's like a human centipede of like 6 billion people or whatever. I guess that's what they could do. Maverick Media says Thanksgiving. I guess, yeah, I agree with that. They don't need to make another Thanksgiving movie. Unless they bring it back to its roots. Unless they make it back to basics. Then they can bring back Thanksgiving. Only one puppet. Just one puppet. That fucking turkey. I don't want to see any more fucking Muppets. As long as there's no fucking Muppets, there's no colonial era people, there's no rapping grandmas. Okay, you can bring back Thanksgiving, but otherwise, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. But if it's just that one turkey puppet, all right, you got my attention. Let's hear what you got. All right, okay. All right, Sailor Mercury says, Dr. Wolfula, do you think Nightmare on Elm Street series will ever return? I think it will eventually. But, you know, it is kind of crazy. Like, Warner Brothers has this iconic villain, like one of the most iconic villains, but you don't really hear them even really interested in pursuing a new movie with it. So, I guess it's just nobody's really interested in it, like, as far as the production side of things is concerned. They don't really need to make another one anytime soon. There's got to be, like, somebody who's, like, you know, you got to have somebody who's, like, amped up about making more of any fucking horror franchise. Otherwise, just, you know, leave it alone. Otherwise, it is just purely for money. Because, you know, that's the end of the day. It is, like, it's show business. You got to have the business side, but you know, ideally, you have people who are, like, passionate and having a good time and trying to tell the best stories they can to earn your money. Like, you know, where it's like, oh, yeah, okay, we're making money, but we're also, you know, making something that we think is going to be good and we think will entertain you and you'll want to come back and watch some more. So, you know, that's the key thing. It's always bad when it is just, you know, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a shit. And that's an unfortunate thing with, like, a lot of major movies. Is they go with the approach of, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a shit about this beloved series or movie or whatever. We just want your money. We don't care if you're entertained at all. Just give us your money. Just give it to us. Like, that's never a good thing. But unfortunately, it is the case with a lot of things. Ideally, that's, you know, not what you want to see, though. Nicole says, your voice is starting to slide a bit, Doc. Yeah, I think it's a sign that I need to start wrapping things up. But let me find one more question to end the night strong. Okay, well, Ghost Pirate Entertainment says, I'm not sure if anyone mentioned it, but your volume is much lower than normal. Yeah, I don't know what's up with, like, the audio mix tonight. I guess I can, like, up it a little bit there, I guess. I had it, like, lower, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I need to make sure next time. I always fuck up the audio mixing. I'm never quite sure what to do with streams. I'm not really good at it. I wish I was a little better about it, but, you know, I fucked up. There's no other way to say it. Gary on White. Man, Gary on White is really into these Hatchet movies. Hey, Doc, do you think Mary Beth and Andrew could work together to fight Victor Crowley in Hatchet 5, that would be fucking amazing to see Andrew and Mary Beth on the big screen together. They teased it at the end of Victor Crowley. They better fucking have it happen. Like, I'm hoping. I got my fingers crossed. I will be there at the movie theater when it releases, or if it's not released on a big screen, because of course it wouldn't be, I'll be right there to rent it at Redbox. I'll be there waiting for it to come out. Good night to you, CP. I don't know about that day, but good night to you. Okay, well, AWC Thrasher asked best Christmas horror movie. Oh, that's easy. Black Christmas. Yeah, the original one. Not the remake or the other remake. The original one. That's for sure. JCS. Okay, this will be the last question for sure. JCS, Doc, where do you think the Evil Dead franchise goes from here? Well, there's two options. And I guess maybe there's three options, but the third option is it's not likely. But there's three options. Option one is the unfortunate, but most likely approach, is the Evil Dead movies going forward have kind of an anthology approach, where it is just somebody else opens up the book every movie, and, all hell breaks loose. It's just like a different scenario, different characters. There isn't like a story that's moved forward. But then there's the second option, where we continue the story of Beth and Cassie, and, or at least we continue from where the movie ended with, I guess we don't necessarily, I guess Evil Dead Rise did kind of set up a possible sequel in the sense that we don't necessarily have to follow Beth and Cassie's characters, but we can, follow that current demon that's apparently still possessed. That chick that, jumps out of the lake in the opening of the movie. I guess they could do that. I guess they can continue that. So there's at least an option as far as a story is concerned. But I don't know if they're necessarily going to have a running story with further Evil Dead movies. And at the same time, I'm not even sure if they're going to make another Evil Dead movie for another 10 years again. I don't know if they're going to be all right, here's another Evil Dead movie 2 years later. I'm not so sure about that. I would hope they would do that and they'd continue with the quality they've been having, but I'm not so sure. I feel like there's going to be another long gap between Evil Dead movies. So, there's that option. I felt like there was an opportunity to continue Mia's character from the 2013 movie. They could have done a thing where it's like that, where it's like that Evil Dead regeneration game where they could have had Mia institutionalized because everyone thinks she killed her friends and her brother, because it's very sketchy. So she's institutionalized, and her psychiatrist or whatever comes across the Book of the Dead and tries to rehabilitate her by showing her this isn't real. There's no fucking demons and stuff, and they fucking read the book, and all hell breaks loose inside the fucking mental institution. So you have an insane asylum Evil Dead movie. That could have been cool, but they didn't really continue Mia's character. They could potentially still pick up with Mia's character, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to do that. I guess we'll see. I guess they could do that approach with Beth's character too, because I think a mental asylum Evil Dead movie would be pretty cool. They did a mental asylum episode arc in the second season of Ash vs. Evil Dead, but it wasn't quite the same thing. It was more kind of demons gaslighting Ash into thinking the demons aren't real and shit. So it wasn't really Deadites on the loose in an insane asylum necessarily. Just, some insane asylums and abandoned insane asylum scenes. So there's that option. Then there's the third option. They could do another Ash movie. I would love an Army of Darkness sequel, but that's probably not going to happen. I do love anytime you see an interview with Sam Raimi and he's saying, we're working on the next Evil Dead or Army of Darkness movie with Ash and shit. And it's just Bruce Campbell just immediately is okay, that's not going to happen. It's not happening. Just shut the fuck up. There's not going to be any more Ash movies and stuff. But anyway. All right, I've been talking enough, though. Let's finally wrap it up. But I'm hoping, they keep making some Evil Dead stuff, that's for sure. Okay, so if you like this stream, like it. And if you loved it, subscribe to it and click the bell so you never miss out on future streams and when videos go up live. Also follow me on social media at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Dr. Wolfula. Don't forget, follow me, keep track of me, and also support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Dr. Wolfula if you want to support the channel and keep it going, and also get some bonus content like my bonus movie night streams every Sunday, and also shout-outs. And that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for watching me for nearly 3.5 hours. Just talking. Oh, it's been a great night. I will see you all next time. There'll be some new videos next week. Good night. Pleasant screams. Doc signing out. See you all next time. Bye-bye.
Hope you enjoyed this live stream. Why don't you watch another thing while I have your attention?